Hello, word nerds. Welcome to this episode of the podcast. It's amazing how many words start with the prefix bio. We hit it like 5 episodes ago, and we still have more to go. We're probably like halfway through the bio words. The first one for this episode, top of page 124. Oh, by the way, how did you like our last 2 guests, Becky and Tom? Give them some love. Go check out the things that they're doing, art and music and podcast and all that good stuff. You will be hearing more people. I haven't recorded them yet, but I'm starting to schedule them. I hope you like it. Next, so first word, biological oxygen demand. I'm not going to spell them, but they're 3 words. Noun from 1930. Synonym is biochemical oxygen demand. So the only difference was the first word. The word, our word is biological, and the synonym word was biochemical. Where did we read this one? I read that 3 episodes ago. Was that June 5th? Yeah. Okay. Next is biological warfare. 2 words. Noun from 1946. Warfare involving the use of biological weapons. Also, warfare involving the use of herbicides. I always listen to my episodes the day they come out. And it was just either, I think probably yesterday, I was listening. And all of a sudden, this big belch came out of nowhere. And I thought it was funny. And I hope that some of you find it funny. And if you don't like it, I'm sorry. It's not super common, but you know what? I'm not editing them out. I'm just letting things happen the way they happen. And I think it's funny. Next is biological weapon. Noun, 2 words, from 1947. A harmful biological agent as a pathogenic microorganism or a neurotoxin used as a weapon to cause death or disease, usually on a large scale. I hope none of you are making any of these biological weapons, but if you do, please don't. Next is biologism. biologism, noun from 1920. The use of biological explanations in the analysis of social situations. The use of biological explanations in the analysis of social... I need more context on this one. Biologistic, nope, that's not how you say it. Biologistic is an adjective. Interesting. Next we have, it's just the word biology. I mean, this is a fairly basic word. It's the definition isn't huge, but there are a few of them. Noun from 1819. 1, a branch of knowledge that deals with living organisms and vital processes. Yep, that's what it is. 2a, the plant and animal life of a region or environment. 2b, the life processes, especially of an organism or group. Broadly, the synonym ecology. Biologist is a noun. Next is bioluminescence. This is a fun one. Noun from 1916. The emission of light from living organisms. Also, the light so produced. Bioluminescent is an adjective. I feel like we've been seeing a lot more recently about bioluminescent animals. I don't know if that's, or animals, creatures, organisms. I don't know if it's that we're just finding more of them in recent years, or if they're just getting more exposure. I have been lucky enough to see some of these, maybe just one time in Puerto Rico. We went on this little canoe trip into this, it's down like a bioluminescent, it's down a river and then into a lake. And it's not that the water is bioluminescent, but the little creatures inside of it, when they're agitated in any way, they glow. And so I swear I felt like I was in the movie Avatar. We were rowing the canoe, putting the paddle into the water, and because it had just gotten dark out, and you literally just paddle through the water and the water starts to glow. around, the water that you've disturbed, and it's absolutely amazing. And then we go out into this lake, and you put your hand in the water, and it just glows all around you. Super, super cool. If you ever get a chance to go to one of these areas, I highly recommend it. Next is biomarker. Noun from 1982. I feel like it should be a marker made from biological substances. Not exactly. A distinctive biological or biologically derived indicator as a metabolite of a process, event, or condition as aging, disease, or oil formation. So I think, I've heard this word a lot. I think what it's basically saying is that they look at the biology in your body, whatever part that they're looking at, and they, based on what they see, they can tell, and the age of something, or if you've got a certain disease or something like that. So they look for biomarkers to tell what is sort of going on. It's sort of like looking at the rings of a tree, I think. That would be considered a biomarker, because you can see if the tree had a lot of growth or a little bit of growth that year. That could tell you something. You could tell when there was like a fire or something. Okay. Moving on to biomass, noun from 1934. 1, the amount of living matter, as in a unit area or volume of habitat. Number 2, plant materials and animal waste used especially as a source of fuel. That goes back to our biodiesel word. Next is biomaterial, noun from 1966. A natural or synthetic material, as a metal or polymer, that is suitable for introduction into living tissue, especially as part of a medical device as an artificial joint. I have a feeling I'm going to need some artificial joints when I'm older. I got some problems. My shoulder in particular is a problem. Next is biomathematics. Noun from 1923. Mathematics of special use in biology and medicine. Can I have an example, please? Biomathematical is an adjective. Biomathematician is a noun. So it's somebody who's doing math, the idea is math that deals with specifically with biology and medicine. Basically, these natural substances. Although medicine isn't technically natural, but it's dealing with the natural world, the biology of your body or whatever. Next is biome, B-I-O-M-E. This is another word that we've been hearing a lot more recently, literally just in the last few years. There's been a lot more talk about biome, specifically with the body, but it's a word that's been around since, let me tell you, it's a noun from 1916, over 100 years. A major ecological community type, as tropical rainforest, grassland, or desert. But of course, in the body, I think it's called the microbiome or your gut biome. You've got the biome on your skin. You've got the biome literally in your intestines. And that can actually not only tell you a lot about your health when you test it, but you can actually change it. You can affect it and make it better or worse based on what you ingest and what you do with your body. Moving on to biomechanics. It is a noun from circa 1933. The mechanics of biological and especially muscular activity, as in locomotion or exercise. Also, the scientific study of this. Biomechanical is an adjective and biomechanically is an adverb. Next is biomedical, adjective from 1926. 1, of or relating to biomedicine. Number 2, of, relating to, or involving biological, medical, and physical science. Next is biomedical engineering. 2 words, noun from 1961. First, we have the synonym, or we just have the synonym, bioengineering, but it is the number 1 definition for bioengineering. When did we read that one? Oh, that was with Becky. That was in Becky's episode from June 6th, bioengineering. All right, next. And biomedical engineer is a noun. Next is biomedicine, noun from 1923. Medicine based on the application of the principles of the natural sciences and especially biology and biochemistry. And then we have our last word for this episode. It is biometeorology. Is that how you say that? Biometeorology. Did I say that right? Biometeorology. Noun from 1946. A science that deals with the relationship between living things and atmospheric phenomena. Well, we are absolutely connected in ways, but, maybe not ways that we would necessarily think of. But, the rain comes from the clouds and falls onto the ground. And, that is probably the easiest connection that you could think of. But there's a lot more than that. Biometeorological is an adjective, and biometeorologist is a noun. How is that different from a meteorologist? They're just looking at the stuff in the atmosphere, but a biometeorologist is looking at how that stuff is connected to us, the living things in general, I guess. Okay. Well, what is going to be the word of the episode? I think I will pick bioluminescence because it's just amazing that there are actually creatures in the world that can glow. What? Yes, it's possible. It's real. We are not quite living in an Avatar world, but we're not terribly far off. I wonder if this is an evolution thing. I wonder if more creatures are becoming bioluminescent. Have they always been like this? Why do they create this ability evolutionarily? It's an interesting topic, and I will post a picture of one of those things. That is it for this episode. Thank you very much for listening and hearing me yammer on. We have more bio words in the next few episodes, so that is it. Thank you for listening. This has been Spencer dispensing information. Goodbye. Hello, word nerds. Welcome to this brand new episode of the Dictionary Podcast. Whoa, I had a little burp there. Okay, let us get into the words. Today, I think, is June 9th. Happy birthday to any of you who have birthdays on June 9th. First word is biometric. Biometric. Could also be biometrical. This is an adjective from 1901 of relating to or utilizing biometrics or biometry. We are going to get into both of those right now. The next one is biometrics. It is a noun from 1902. Number 1 is the synonym biometry. Number 2, the measurement and analysis of unique physical or behavioral characteristics as fingerprint or voice patterns, especially as a means of verifying personal identity. This used to be a sort of a science fiction idea, but this is definitely something that is happening. I wonder how fancy. Are there places where they have technology that us lay people can't even imagine that they're using in, I'm thinking of like a Dr. Evil's layer. Are there, you see that in TV shows and movies all the time. The eye scans, the voice scans, which I think are relatively easy these days, but are there other things that they're doing that most of us aren't even aware of? Probably. Now we have biometry, noun from 1901, the statistical analysis of biological observations and phenomena. Biometrician is a noun. Next is biomimetics. It is a noun from 1974, the study of the formation, structure, or function of biologically produced substances and materials as enzymes or silk, and biological mechanisms and processes as protein synthesis or photosynthesis, especially for the purpose of synthesizing similar products or artificial mechanisms which mimic natural ones. Biomimetic is an adjective. I think this is fascinating. I knew somebody who went to college or was starting to go to college for something similar to this, I think. Basically, it was studying the natural world and then seeing how we can sort of take things that nature has created and make better products or make better engineering or whatever it is for us. I think it's a fascinating topic. I don't think we're ever going to be quite as good as Mother Nature. There's a reason. I don't know. It's fascinating, and I'm sure I've spoken about this before. It's fascinating that nature can create something that is the best possible way. Like the whole idea of beehives being in a hexagonal shape. All the things are hexagons. There is a reason for that. They've actually tested it. They tested it with triangles and squares, and they found that the hexagon is the strongest way to build that structure. It's super fascinating that nature just figures this stuff out. All right, moving on to biomineralization, noun from 1973. The formation or accumulation of minerals by organisms, especially into biological tissues or structures, as bones, teeth, and shells. Biomineral is a noun. Next, we have biomolecule, noun from 1901. An organic molecule and especially a macromolecule, as a protein or nucleic acid, in living organisms. Biomolecular is an adjective. Next, we have biomorphic, adjective from 1895. Resembling or suggesting the forms of living organisms, as in biomorphic sculptures. What's that? Also, biomorphic images. So it's just stuff that resembles or suggests the form of living organisms? That seems, I don't know. Okay, moving on to bionic. This is a fun one. Adjective from 1963. One, of or relating to bionics. Number 2, having normal biological capability or performance enhanced by or as if by electronic or electromechanical devices. And then we'll just read the next one, which is bionics, noun from 1960. A science concerned with the application of data about the functioning of biological systems to the solution of engineering problems. The idea, I don't know. I have mixed feelings about putting things in your body, electronics, like an electronic eye or something. They exist. People do them. It gets you closer to, what am I trying to say? Maybe I should just shut the hell up, Spencer. It's cool to become bionic. I like the idea. We all are like, ooh, cool. I would be able to, jump higher, run faster, whatever. But, then it also, you're becoming part of a robot. And who knows what problems that could bring. Anyway. But I think it would be cool to have an eye that is recording things. You could. I heard of a guy who made a documentary or was doing something with recording stuff with his eye. Obviously, you got to get people's permission and all that. But sometimes I see something and I'm like, oh man, I wish I would have recorded that. Moving on to bionomics. This is a noun from 1888. Synonym is ecology. Bionomic, just with the ends with the C, is an adjective. Etymology we will skip. Moving on to biopesticide, noun from 1980, a pesticide consisting of naturally occurring or genetically engineered microorganisms as bacteria. Next is biopharmaceutical, noun from 1985, a pharmaceutical derived from biological sources and especially one produced by biotechnology. And biopharmaceutical is an adjective. Next we have biophilia, biophilia, noun. You could also pronounce it biophilia or biophilia. Similar, different. Noun, 1979. A hypothetical human tendency to interact or be closely associated with other forms of life in nature. I would love to be closer to nature, wouldn't you? Next, we have biophysics. It is a noun from 1892, a branch of science concerned with the application of physical principles and methods to biological problems. Biophysical is an adjective, and biophysicist is a noun. Next, we have, this is the word that I've mentioned before, I get hung up, biopic. That's how it is pronounced. biopic, not biopic. It is biopic, B-I-O-P-I-C. I think I'm the only one who wants to pronounce it the other way. This is a noun from 1951, a biographical movie. Well, what was the movie in 1951 that made them coin this phrase? Or this word. It's not a phrase, it's a word. Next is biopolymer, noun from 1961, a polymeric substance as a protein or polysaccharide formed in a biological system. And then our last word for this episode is bioprospect, transitive verb from 1996, to search for substances that are produced by living organisms and may be of medicinal or commercial value. Bioprospector is a noun, and I can't not think of, the old prospector. Oh, he's going to go do the blah, blah, blah. I'm thinking of, what's his name? Stinky Pete from Toy Story 2. He's an old prospector, but what's a bioprospector? Do they get into the bio? Anyway, this is a terrible, terrible episode. I am going to pick bionic as the word of the episode. Let us end the worst episode ever, by saying this has been Spencer dispensing information. Goodbye. Hello, all of you lovely word nerds. Thank you for listening to this strange podcast. Apologies for yesterday's episode. My brain was just not working very well, like it normally does not work so well. But it was especially bad. All right, so maybe I'll just try and comment a little bit less, which I know some of you will enjoy. Let us talk about the word biopsy. B-I-O-P-S-Y. It is a noun from 1895. The removal and examination of tissue, cells, or fluids from the living body. This is a thing that happens. It is from the prefix bi plus the suffix opsy, as in autopsy. But what does the prefix opsy actually mean? Is it the removing of something, the opening of something? I don't know. Autopsy, I think, actually means, what is it? I always screw this phrase up. The act of seeing with one's own eyes? Is that the autopsy or is that something else? Anyway, that's a really weird documentary. That's the name of a really weird documentary about autopsies. Moving on to biopsychology. The first 6 letters are the same as biopsy, so when I first read it, I wanted to pronounce it with biopsy at the beginning, but that is not at all what that word is. This word is biopsychology, noun from 1909, and we have the synonym psychobiology. They flippy-flopped it. Biopsychological is an adjective, and biopsychologist is a noun. Now we have bioreactor, noun from 1974, a device or apparatus in which living organisms, and especially bacteria, synthesize useful substances, as interferon, or break down harmful ones, as in sewage. Well, that's good, right? Next we have bioregion, noun from 1978. A region whose limits are naturally defined by topographic and biological features, as mountain ranges and ecosystems. Bioregional is an adjective. Next is bioregionalism, noun from 1981, an environmentalist movement to make political boundaries coincide with bioregions. And bioregionalist is a noun or an adjective. Next is bioremediation, noun from 1986. Who knew that there were all these words that start with bio? The treatment of pollutants or waste, as in an oil spill, contaminated groundwater, or an industrial process, by the use of microorganisms, as bacteria, that break down the undesirable substances. So let's read that again without the parts in parentheses. The treatment of pollutants or waste by the use of microorganisms that break down the undesirable substances. Next is biorhythm, noun from 1960, an innately determined rhythmic biological process or function as sleep behavior. Also, the internal mechanism that determines such a process or function. Biorhythmic is an adjective. I heard they tested this where they wanted to see what the actual or the normal biorhythm of a person's daily cycle is, and I think they figured out it's either a little bit more or a little bit less than a normal 24-hour day. Obviously, everybody's going to be a little bit different. Some people are night owls. Some people are early birds. Some people are some other phrase that has to do with a fowl of some kind. A plucky duck? No. Next word is BIOS, B-I-O-S, all caps, abbreviation for Basic Input-Output System. And there is a slash between input and output. Next is biosafety, noun from 1977. Safety with respect to the effects of biological research on humans and the environment. Well, yes, we want to be safe at all times, no matter what the circumstances or what we're talking about. Next is bioscience, noun from 1941. I was actually just thinking, well, isn't bioscience biology? And then it has the number one definition for the word biology. Also, the synonym life science. Bioscientific is an adjective and bioscientist is a noun. But now we just say biologist. Next is biosecurity, noun from 1985. Security from exposure to harmful biological agents. Also, measures taken to ensure this security. Next, we have biosensor. Oh, it's very close to biospencer. Ooh, what's a biospencer? That's, I guess I'm a biospencer. Biosensor is a noun from 1962, a device that monitors and transmits information about a life process, especially a device consisting of a biological component, as an enzyme or bacterium, that reacts with a target substance and a signal-generating electrochemical component that detects the resulting products or byproducts. That was a mouthful. Next, we have a suffix, biosis, B-I-O-S-I-S. Could also be bioses, that's the plural, B-I-O-S-E-S. This doesn't give a year. It just means mode of life. The example is parabiosis. This is from the Greek biosis, which is from the word bion, which means to live, from the word bios, which means life, and there's more at the word quick. Quick is such a versatile word. I had no idea. Next, we have biosocial, adjective from 1897, of relating to or concerned with the interaction of the biological aspects and social relationships of living organisms, as in biosocial science. Biosocially is an adverb. Next, we have biosolid. I can only imagine what this is going to say. So let's read it. Noun from 1990, solid organic matter recovered from a sewage treatment process and used especially as fertilizer. Used usually in plural. Biosolids. Yep, that's pretty much what I thought it might say. Something related to that. Next, we have biosphere, noun from 1899. This is the name of a movie too, isn't it? Number 1, the part of the world in which life can exist. Number 2, living organisms together with their environment. Biospheric is an adjective. There's part of me that wouldn't totally mind living in a biosphere, at least for a time. I'd have to learn about gardening and stuff like that, but it might be kind of nice. Next, we have biostatistics. That is our last word. B-I-O-S-T-A-T-I-S-T-I-C-S. Noun from 1949. Statistics applied to the analysis of biological data. Biostatistical is an adjective, and biostatistician. Biostatistician is a noun, and the worst word to say. What are we going to pick? Well, let us just pick biorhythm as the word of the episode because it's kind of an interesting idea, I guess. That's all I got for you today. Thank you very much for listening. Please rate and review. The written reviews really help. Of course, 5 stars helps a lot as well. Share. Go tell some people about this. I think I've got some new listeners. I don't know if there's a guy who runs and I think owns a brewery, And he said that he started listening. I don't know if he's listening to new episodes or old episodes, but maybe someday he'll hear this. And so, hi, thank you for listening. That is it. This has been Spencer dispensing information. Goodbye. Hello, word nerds. Welcome to another episode of the podcast called The Dictionary. If you didn't know that, I worry about you because it's right there in the title. The first word for today's episode is biostratigraphy. 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 This is a noun from 1926. 1. The identification of fossils found within sedimentary rock strata as a method of determining the relative geologic age of the rock. Also, the branch of paleontology involving such identification. For those of you who don't know, there's different levels of dirt and rock, and as the years go on, there's more stuff that gets added on top. So as you dig further down, that stuff is older and older. So you can sort of get a good estimate of how old something is the further down you dig. But don't go digging mile-long holes in your backyard. That would be bad for everybody. Number 2, the arrangement of fossils in rock strata. Biostratigraphic is an adjective. Next we have biosynthesis. Noun from 1930, the production of a chemical compound by a living organism. Biosynthetic is an adjective and biosynthetically is an adverb. Next, we have biosystematics. This one is a noun from 1945. Taxonomy, especially as based on cytogenetics and genetics. Biosystematic is an adjective and biosystematist is a noun. I don't know why I like to say the words that end in matic so funny. Systematic. All right, next we have biota, B-I-O-T-A, noun from 1901, the flora and fauna of a region. Very simple. The stuff that lives in an area is called the biota. Next is biotech, noun from 1974, and we have the number 1 definition for the word biotechnology, which is just 2 words away. And now it's only one word away because the next word is biotechnical, adjective from 1938, of or relating to biotechnology, which is our next word, noun from 1941. Number 1, the manipulation, as through genetic engineering, of living organisms or their components to produce useful, usually commercial products as pest-resistant crops, new bacterial strains, or novel pharmaceuticals. Also, any of various applications of biological science used in such manipulation. There was so much to that. Number 2, we have the number 1 definition for the word ergonomics. Ergonomics, biotechnology? Okay. Biotechnological is an adjective and also biotechnologically is an adverb, and biotechnologist is a noun. Now we have biotelemetry. Biotelemetry. Noun from 1963, the remote detection and measurement of a human or animal function, activity, or condition, as heart rate or body temperature. Biotelemetric is an adjective. The remote detection and measurement. So if it's, you get it. Cool. Next is bioterror. Noun from 1996. We have the synonym bioterrorism, which is our next word, noun from 1991. Terrorism, involving the use of biological weapons. Bioterrorist is an adjective or a noun. That is bad stuff. Hopefully people aren't doing that. I think some people think that is happening right now, but it's not. It's not. It's just a thing that's happening. Next is biotic, adjective from 1868, of relating to or caused by living organisms, as in biotic diversity. Oh, the sun must be going behind some clouds, or rather, some clouds are going in front of the sun because it just got dark in this room. Now we have the word biotic again, but it is a suffix. It says an adjective combined form. It means having a mode of life. And there was a part in parentheses that I skipped, which said the word specified. So, having a specified mode of life, as in endobiotic. And I'm going to turn on this lamp that's right next to me. It's reachable. I don't have to get up from my seat because it got a little too dark to read the words. All right, so that was the suffix biotic. And now we have biotic potential. 2 words, noun from 1928. The inherent capacity of an organism or species to reproduce and survive. The inherent capacity. So if something is able to reproduce and survive, it has biotic potential. I would say the vast majority of living things on planet Earth have biotic potential. Now we have the word biotin, biotin, noun from 1936, a colorless crystalline growth vitamin C10H16N2O3S of the vitamin B complex found especially in yeast, liver, and egg yolk. We haven't seen that scientific name thing, letters and numbers, in a while. Let's see, this is from the Greek biotos, which means life or sustenance, and it is akin to the Greek word bios. Now we have the word biotite, biotite, noun from 1862, a generally black or dark green form of mica that is a constituent of crystalline rocks and consists of a silicate of iron, magnesium, potassium, and aluminum. Biotitic is a word that is also an adjective. So this is from, interesting, it's not actually related to these bio words, it looks like. It is from I guess it's the German word biotit, B-I-O-T-I-T, don't know how to pronounce that one, which is from somebody named Jean B. Biot, B-I-O-T, who, French person, Biot, maybe his last name is pronounced Biot, who died in 1862. He was a French mathematician. And then they named this thing biotite after him. I think it's a him. I have a pretty good guess. Now we have biotope, B-I-O-T-O-P-E, noun from 1927, a region uniform in environmental conditions and in its populations of animals and plants for which it is the habitat, the biotope. This is from the bi prefix plus the Greek word topos, which means place. So whenever you see that suffix, something similar to tope, that you can think of place, the word place. Now we have biotoxin, noun from 1927, a toxic substance of biological origin, something that can mess you up that comes from a natural biological thing. Next is biotransformation, noun from 1955, the transformation of chemical compounds within a living system. And the last word for this episode is bioturbation, B-I-O-T-U-R-B-A-T-I-O-N. It is a noun from 1967. The restructuring of sedimentary deposits, as in a lake bottom or seabed, by moving organisms. That's the end of the sentence, but then there's some parentheses, as worms and burrowing clams. So the whole thing without parentheses is the restructuring of sedimentary deposits by moving organisms. So things like worms and burrowing clams will move the sediment around, like at the bottom of a lake, and that's called bioturbation. And bioturbated is an adjective. What is the word of the episode? Where was that one that I thought of just now? Is it this one of relating to the cause? No. Well, it was the one that had, biotic potential. I'm going to pick biotic potential as the word of the episode because, I don't know, it stuck out at me as it's the inherent capacity of an organism or species to reproduce and survive. So that's the thing that makes life go on, and which is fascinating. A fascinating topic, ladies and gentlemen. That is all I got today to talk to you about the words and the definitions. This has been Spencer dispensing information to you, the lovely people who are listening to me talk about the dictionary. Goodbye. Hello, word nerds, and welcome to another very special episode of the podcast called The Dictionary. I keep on calling these special episodes, but I feel like maybe I should change it up a little bit. This one is special because you probably saw in the title, I have another guest. My guest today is Paul McComas. I think I pronounced that correctly. Is that right, Paul?
You did. Rhymes with Thomas. Yes. Spelt like Thomas, rhymes with Thomas.
After about 12 or 13 years of knowing you, I sure hope that I've pronounced your name. Paul and I go back about that long. I've helped him on various video projects. But Paul, let us know, tell me and tell the people what sort of things you do. What do they need to know about you? What things do you have to plug?
Well, they need to know first that this is not a special show. If all the other ones have been, then I'd like to request that this not be a special episode of it, because that will make it, special.
Duly noted.
Okay, thank you. What do I do? I'm an author. I'm a filmmaker, a musician, songwriter, activist, on the correct side, not the right side, the correct side. And Spencer and I, yes, 12 or 13 years, you say, my God, it seems like longer. Oh, no, Spencer and I have worked very well together on a series of film projects and my cult TV series, No Budget Theater, and little Sam Shepard short, and too many things for me to remember. And at one point, we just decided to give ourselves a production company name. We are Invagba Productions, INVAGB. There's a story behind that, which we can go into now or later if you want to. It does have to do with word nerdery, after all.
It does. Or we could just keep it a secret from the people and they will just ever wonder what the hell is with Invagba.
We can make them guess for a prize. Yes, if you can guess. And, maybe some people can, because you remember how Invagba came to be. I'm undoubtedly not the only person who got that word, non-word, showing up when I did X, right?
True.
Yeah. So.
I wouldn't be surprised. Basically what Paul said, we have worked on a whole variety of projects together. I've helped him out with editing or recording or whatever it is. Like you said, way too many for me to remember. We will put links, of course, into the show notes. Paul is, in my opinion, one of the most amazing people I know.
Oh my God.
He is constantly working. He is one of the most creative people I have ever seen. He has been in the film and performing and writing world since he was probably, 10, 12?
Yeah, I made my first movie at 11. Yeah.
Yeah. These were back in the, Super 8 days.
Even before the standard 8mm days.
Standard 8, okay.
Super 8 was great because Super 8 was the cartridge that you put in. And what happened was my dad shot standard until he got a Super 8 in the early 70s, and then he gave me a standard 8. You want this? Do I want this? Are you kidding me? I love movies. I've loved them since the first time I saw one, and I've been watching them and writing about them. I had a couple fanzines. I wrote about monster movies and science fiction movies. And then when I had a camera, I took off, and it was standard 8, which means that it's a 16mm reel. And when you shoot, it's a short one though, a short reel, but it's two-sided. I don't know if this makes any sense to dear listener.
Some people will love it, I guarantee.
Yeah, right. It's not word nerd right now; it's film nerd, and so you shoot it like a minute and a half worth, or just over, and then you have to go in a dark room, take it out, flip it over, close the camera back up, and shoot it again, but on the other side. And then at the lab, they develop it, and they cut it down the middle and put it together into one reel. It's just a terrible technology, but for me, it was a godsend.
Yeah, I mean, it was better than nothing. I don't know if I ever realized that they used to do that. They would take 16mm film and cut it and do that. That's fascinating.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, but Paul is, like I said, one of the most creative people I've seen. He, to this day, any movies or short films he makes, his creativity is the most amazing thing because he. It's like, how do I describe it? Creating little model sci-fi cities out of egg cartons and tins and whatever. It's like I think of Michel Gondry, the filmmaker Michel Gondry,
Yeah.
when I think of your stuff as well, and it just blows my mind. Between he's a Renaissance man, filmmaking, writing books and films, musician. Performing everything. Definitely go check out Paul's work. And like you said, activism. You do a lot of work for RAINN, RAINN. And could you say what that stands for the people?
Yeah, RAINN is the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network. It's the largest anti-sexual violence organization in the country, probably in the world, come to think of it. I'm on their National Leadership Council and their Speakers Bureau. They were co-founded 25 years ago by Tori Amos, with whom I've gotten to meet a few times to fill her in on the status of a couple of my projects, including the Unplugged project, for which your host, Spencer Parks, worked with me to make a series of short films. One link that we'll put in the, what did you call it? The
Show
link
notes.
show notes. I was going to say link bay. I think I like that better.
That works too.
Is a link to the recording from our City Winery production, City Winery Chicago production of Unplugged, and the films show up very well in there. We made sure in post to have the films show up even better than they did live on those screens. So anyway, yeah, RAINN and. I'm doing a project right now centered around John Steinbeck. You'll see in show notes. It will have already taken place on Zoom and Facebook by the time this airs, but it will be archived. And that screening and discussion that I did a few weeks ago for an art center in Milwaukee that was all about IGSC, intergenerational self collaboration, which is
Hmm.
me making movies at 11 to 15 to 17 and then coming back 25 to 30 to 35 to 40 years later and collaborating with that callow youth, that callow preteen or teen, maintaining his naive, innocent enthusiasm and energy, but polishing it with what I've gained through experience as a filmmaker and media scholar. I will tell you, Spencer, since you mentioned things like the egg cartons and the tinfoil, that part of me is still very much alive. I mean, Heather can attest. My wife can attest. We'll be
Yes.
out walking and see something in a store window, and I'll say, what was it? It was a gigantic pencil, and I said, if I were making a kind of an Incredible Shrinking Man movie, I would go in there right now and buy that thing. And it would just be a scene of me waking up and seeing that, and then the music would go dun dun. So that I will always have about a 15-year-old filmmaker in my brain. That you could map my brain, you would see that it's shaped like a film with sprocket holes in it. Lots of sprocket holes, lots of holes in my brain by this time.
Oh, mine as well. Yes, but yeah, keeping that young spirit alive. But like you said, with the older level of experience, and I hope in 20 years you go back and you add even more stuff to them.
Intergenerational. I did in advance of that screening, I did an interview on Milwaukee Public Radio, and the interviewer, whose name of course eludes me now because of those holes in my brain, he was great, and he was saying, was it therapeutic? It's absolutely therapeutic for me to go back and affirm that kid, who
Hmm.
who got trash talked a lot and treated like and bullied a lot, and to be able to go back and say to him, you know what you were doing, it mattered, it counted. I'm going to take it that next step and make it the best version of itself it can be, was super affirming to me. And so the interviewer said, so it's intergenerational self validation.
Yeah,
I like that. It is. So
absolutely.
taught a workshop in IGSC across all arts, and so we had writers, musicians, all the kinds of different people, and I challenged them to go find something from very early on. They didn't want to go that far back because it's not that good. That's not the point. The point isn't how good it was. The point is go back a ways so that there's a nice big gap there between you and the originator, and then together you can make something that neither of you could possibly make on your own.
Yeah, I think that's actually really good for creators of all kinds to look back at what they did. Not necessarily, you don't have to dwell on it. I know people can get uncomfortable with that, but I think it's good to look back and who knows? I mean, it could give you a new idea that you never would have thought of otherwise.
Right, right. Yeah, let your past be your muse. Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, which is such an interesting concept, I think. And then one last thing before we get to the words, you mentioned that show Unplugged, which I do highly, highly recommend that everybody check out. It's a really, really impactful. Um, d- uh, it's just a really amazing show, which you wrote, I think, with Maya. Is that right?
Well, here's a quick Cliff Notes kind of history of it. It started as a novel that I wrote that was published in 2002, and then the publisher did a 15th anniversary edition 2.5 years ago. So 2002 novel did really well critically, better critically than commercially, but that's the story of my life, and I don't care. And then while I was writing the novel, I started writing songs in the voice of the main character because she's a rock musician, and the songwriting informed the novel writing, and vice versa. When I finished the novel and it was off to the publisher, and even after it was published, I kept writing songs in the voice of this character, Dana Clay. And I just couldn't stop. She was alive in my brain, right next to that 15-year-old filmmaker, actually. He was trying to get some action with her, but she wouldn't go there. And and so what happened then? Maya came on board the project in the circa 2013, I want to say. Um, yeah, I want to say it, so I'll go ahead and say it. Circa 2013. And
Say it.
yeah, say it. She plays Dana, and I had written half of the songs for the show, and she and I co-wrote the other half and adapted the songs plus a play script that I wrote into the show that Spencer's referring to, that also features his and my collaborative Invagba Productions short films. And so now that has a soundtrack album available on CD and via download, profits from which go to Rain, the aforementioned Rain, in pre-production on a hoped for indie feature based on the novel. And then it'll be a lunchbox and a video game, and I don't know what else.
Uh, Action figures and trading
Yeah,
cards. But
absolutely.
yeah, this show really is worth watching. It's different. It's impactful. I think especially if you're a woman, a creative person, but also if you're a man, it was really impactful to me. And then my wife saw it, and she told a bunch of her friends that if they can, that they should watch it. So.
Oh,
And that actually reminds me, I should ask Maya if she wants to be a guest. I think
yes.
she would be great. And I don't have enough women queued up. I do want to keep this as mixed as possible.
She'd be great. So would Megan, who I do with whom I do the Steinbeck show. And you want some referrals to some great women in the arts and in the word nerd community. Maya's day job is that she is the boss of the copywriters at Zounds Music. So she's a word nerd too.
Yes, yes, yes. We'll definitely talk off air about that.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll talk about some words and their definitions, and this should be an interesting little section that we've got here on the top of page 125. We don't have to, as my listeners know, I don't usually go too in depth with my comments, but hey, you never know what's gonna come up. It could turn into a whole thing. So our first word is biotype. BIOTYPE. Paul, you are coming in at the end of this section of the bio words. For the last 7 episodes or so, all these words have started with bio.
Okay.
And so this one is a noun from 1906. The organisms sharing a specified genotype. Also, the genotype shared or its distinguishing peculiarity. And biotypic is an adjective.
All right. And you'd like me to respond in some way?
If you have anything to say, and what you said, all right, is often how I respond to a lot of these, so that is
No, no,
perfectly
no. The
fine.
the rest of the definition would read something like, example, Bernie Bros. Um, that's a biotype of which I'm not myself a member. I was a Hillary backer, and then I supported someone else from the Democratic field in the last primaries, and now I'm all behind Joe because, consider the alternative. But I would say that Bernie Bros is a modern day biotype if ever there were one.
I think that is a perfect example, and you are much better at coming up with examples than I am. So feel free to keep on doing that, and it just helps me and everybody else understand the word better. You know, the definition only can go so far, and oftentimes when I'm reading these, my brain just shuts off. I'm reading the words, but I don't even really hear what I'm saying until I listen back to this later. So yeah, thank you for that example. That's perfect.
Also,
And then our next,
oh, well,
yeah, go
before you
ahead.
move on, yeah, I actually have a device here you might be interested in. Jesus, that's hard. In which you might be interested. My what do you call it? New Year's resolution this year is to stop ending sentences and ideally clauses and phrases with prepositions. So I'm constantly correcting myself. I am an English professor, among other things. So, but I have a device here that I use to translate words directly into DNA, and it's called a biotypewriter. Actually,
Oh,
biotypewriter. Yeah.
very nice, very
Okay.
nice. That reminds me of a Stephen Wright joke.
Sorry. No, you should start ribbing me about these bad jokes. Yeah.
I do love puns, but I am not good at creating them. But that does remind me of a Stephen Wright joke. He said,
Yeah.
"I have the oldest typewriter in the world. It types in pencil."
Well, Spencer, you know that I still use a flip phone, and my
Oh
dream
yes,
is to find a rotary flip phone. That's what I really, really want for Christmas. Um,
I have a feeling somebody's made one.
there are images of them, but I don't think they actually exist. I love Stephen Wright too. One of my favorites from him is when he said, "I came home late last night. I was fumbling for my keys. I accidentally stuck my car key into the front door lock, and it was like 2, 3 blocks before I could get off. Jump off, something like that."
Yeah,
That
I think I heard another
it said
version. He
it
says,
better
"I
than I, but the point was that because he'd used the wrong key, his house was driving down the street.
his house turned on, and he said, so I drove it around for a little while,
Okay,
and
yeah.
then I parked in the median strip of a highway, and I yelled out the window, 'Get off my lawn!'"
Oh, nice, nice. See, that's the double flip on that joke. That's the button, they call it in comedy. You got your punchline, and then you got your button. Yep.
Oh yes, oh yes.
Yeah. And then halfway through a routine, when he's delivering the deadpan like this, halfway through he'll just pause and he'll say, "I'm feeling a little hyper tonight."
If you guys have never heard of Stephen Wright, you got to go check him out. He is amazing.
Yes.
All right, next word is biowarfare. This one it's a good one, right? Noun from circa 1966, and we just have the synonym biological warfare, which we read, I don't know, 5 episodes ago. So if you want to hear what that one is, go back to that episode.
And if we want to continue that Bernie Bros thing, it would be the Bernie Bros plus Hillary backers like me on Facebook. That's warfare between two biotypes. Also, that awful scene in Silence of the Lambs when Clarice first walks past the prison cells and one of the prisoners flings something at her. I'm not going to say what it is. Do you remember, Spencer?
Yes, I think I do.
He was engaging in an act of biowarfare.
Yes. Agreed. I just thought of a fun game. Can you think of what the next word might be?
Okay, we went from biotype to biowarfare. Are you willing to tell me whether it's a bio word or not? Because my answer will depend on that.
It is still a bio word.
Okay.
The second to the last of the bio words, in fact.
Okay, so the last might be something like biozygote, and it's not going to be that. It's going to be another W, I'm saying. Is that right? Bio W something?
Yes.
Yes. But not WA, because we did that. W, bio wobble, the tendency to shake and shiver because of puberty. Bio wobble.
If that word is not in the dictionary, but it absolutely should be in the dictionary. I have a feeling that game won't last because I think it's just way too hard and it puts people on the spot. But the next word is bio waste.
Oh, yeah.
Noun from 1968. Waste as manure, sawdust, or food scraps that is composed chiefly of organic matter. So, of course, manure is poop. Sawdust comes from wood, and then food scraps is obviously, food is biological organic matter.
And just to stay on a theme, I'm going to say that in the 2016 election, any progressives, moderates, sane people who either cast a vote for Jill Stein or wrote in Bernie or stayed at home. No, not the stayed at home. Yeah, no. There was okay. That's harder for me to make conform to the definition, so we'll leave that out. Wrote in Bernie, or voted for Jill Stein, or voted for what's his name, that ex-Republican who was running. The votes that they cast were bio waste. I'm thinking also of an Onion picture from 2000, from right after that election, and it showed. Honestly, Spencer, now that I think of it, and I wasn't going there, but here we are. It showed a guy who looks a fair amount like my dear friend Spencer, in perhaps an altered state, wearing a Nader T-shirt, and the headline in the Onion was "Vote, comma voter wasted."
Hmm.
So gets us to that waste thing. Yeah, I would
Yes.
say that,
Yes.
but that's not bio though. See, I got to stop being so political. Bio waste.
Yeah, I think manure is usually the first one that I think of when I think of the word bio waste.
Yeah.
Something that's not used, but it comes from something that's organic.
Well, it comes from something having been used. Yeah.
Yes, that is organic. Yeah.
Yeah, and then being used again in the
Um.
circle of life,
Yes.
Hakuna Matata,
True.
all
True.
that stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Whether you are actively using it or not, yes, it is getting used in some form.
Mm-hmm.
It's something is being done with it. So we are going to move on to the last of the bio words. It is bioweapon. This is
Mm-hmm.
a noun from 1973, and we just have the synonym biological weapon because, of course, biological was shortened to bio.
The example would be that of which they found none in Iraq in the early 21st century. That would be the example I would give. But back to the manure. Back to the manure. And that is going to be the name of my memoir, by the way. Back to the manure dispense. I just want to say that if ever there were a perfect example of nature as recycler, it would be manure, which is the byproduct of something having been accomplished and then can be put to use to accomplish something else. It's beautiful when you think about it.
It's great. I love manure. It's amazing.
I like the smell out in the on the country when you're driving past the fields and they put the window down. It doesn't smell like I won't say the word, but it doesn't smell like ah.
Poop.
It's somehow, yeah, it's different somehow. Maybe it's the interaction with the earth that
It's
gives it,
possible.
yeah, and so it's the smell of life. It's the smell of that which will nourish us. It is a very positive aroma to me. Yeah.
Yeah, I think people need to learn more about manure. But we are now going to learn about the word biparental. This
Mm.
one is an adjective from 1900 of relating to, involving, or derived from two parents. And then biparentally is an adverb.
Right, and also can refer to the raising of children by someone who is attracted to both men and women. That would also be biparental. And I am at liberty to go there because Unplugged has a protagonist who is bisexual. So obviously, there's no criticism in my choosing that secondary definition, biparental. Yeah, I think that works. Yeah, the raising of children by someone who is attracted to people of both sexes. Yeah,
I say that works. We'll add it in the next version of the book.
thank you.
So our next one, you might have a few things to say
Uh
about.
oh.
It's kind of a longish definition, but here we go. It is the word bipartisan or partisan. It does say this is. Oh yes, that's something else. So this is an adjective from 1895 of relating to or involving members of two parties, specifically marked by or involving cooperation, agreement, and compromise between two major political parties. Bipartisanism is a noun, and bipartisanship is also a noun.
Right, with an illustration of a dodo bird next to it, I think, and in parentheses it says extinct. Yeah. And I'm certainly not going to be one of those people saying, "Oh, the parties are so divided," and this false equivalency, of it's the fault of both sides. No, it's not. Barack Obama, the best president of my lifetime, I was a Kennedy kid. I was born during those 1,000 days of JFK. He went into office trying to work across the aisle. But it takes two, man. It takes two. And all of those freaking congressmen and senators over on the other side staring at him, thinking, you know what they were thinking. Yeah, I think more than half of the opposition to Barack was based on race. And they were thinking two words that are initialed UN. And the U word would be uppity. That's what they were thinking. And you can't work with people like that. They had no interest in working with him. It's gotten worse since because of, what managed to cheat and lie its way into power with Russian meddling. So you expect me to go political on this answer, but I'm not going to, Spencer.
Thank you.
I'm going to say that if I am invited to two fetes, F-E-T-E-S, from Le Français, if I am invited to two celebrations, two stem winders, as it were, to whatever you want to say, should I go to this one or should I go to that one? I will go to both. I will ideally go back and forth between the two. I will be bipartisan on that evening. Yes.
Good. You pulled it out. You pulled it out.
Well, you can get arrested for that. So no, actually, I did not.
You said you weren't going to get political on that one. I do think the start of your comment was maybe a little on the political side, but I won't hold you to it.
That's a rare case of the preface of a book being longer than the book itself. And by the way, how can you tell? This isn't a riddle. This is a fact. How can you tell a self-published book from a book published through regular means, like my books? And that is, if it has a foreword, the self-published book has a foreword that's spelled Forward. And that's why we need to have publishers and editors and copy editors and proofreaders, so that folks don't embarrass themselves out there. And when they mean to have a Foreword, they put an Forward. And at that point, I put it down and said, no, I'm not reviewing this book. There's no quality control.
Maybe I should have you back for the word forward in about 4 years or so.
The words forward, yes. Either one, either or both. Please do.
Will do. So we are going to move on to the word bipartite. I think that's how it's pronounced. Bipartite. This one is an adjective from 1574. 1A, being in two parts. 1B, having a correspondent part for each of two parties. 1C, shared by two. Number 2, divided into two parts almost to the base, as in a bipartite leaf. Bipartitely is an adverb, and bipartition is a noun. Let's look at the etymology real quick. This is from the Latin word bipartire, which means to divide in two, which is from the bi prefix plus partire, which means to divide. And then there's more at the word pars, or the prefix part, which is the word part.
Yeah. Well, you said you go into the etymology. I didn't hear a damn thing about insects, so I don't know what you're talking about. So bipartite, they left out one of the meanings, and it has to do with a hairstyle, where you comb your hair back and then you take the edge of the comb, the teeth end edge of the comb, and you run it twice, once on each side, kind of medium left and medium right, and try to create two places in your hairline where the hair then parts like miniature Red Seas. That is bipartite hairstyle.
I haven't seen that. Maybe I'll post a picture of one of those to Instagram. Can you show me? Can you send me a picture of yourself with a bipartite hairstyle?
I can try. I've never had one before, but I've got some mousse. I've got a comb, and sure, I'll do that. Bipartite. Yeah, two parts.
It'll be the new style. I love it.
Okay.
The next word is biped. Yes. I thought you would like this one. This is a noun from 1646. A two-footed animal. Bipedal is an adjective. Bipedally is an adverb. And let's see. This is from the Latin prefix bi plus ped or ped or pes, which means foot. And there's more at the word foot.
All right. This would refer to someone who owns two candy dispensers, but no, that's Pez. That's by Pez. I'm just going to stick with your definition of biped, and maybe we can talk about bipeds, quadrupeds, and octopeds, and the very rare triped for just a while here. I wonder if people. This is always bothered me, Spence. When we talk about, say, a bear that is generally quadrupedal but sometimes rears up, is it at that moment a biped? Or one of our cousins, the great apes, that mostly knuckle walk and are using four, 2 feet and 2 hands. Of course, their feet look like hands. Functionally, they are hands. Are those animals simply quadrupeds? Are they quasi-bipeds? Quasi-biped, by the way, was the Hunchback of Notre Dame, as I recall. Um, so these are the kinds of things that keep me up at night. And I think a lot about pedalism, frankly, as a longtime Planet of the Apes fan and a semiophile in general. Pedalism is fascinating to me, and I'd like to know your thoughts on the status of pedalism, whether an organism, a single being, can switch its pedality from moment to moment.
Yeah, I think you'd have to talk to a bipedologist. What's the word I'm thinking of?
Yes.
Oh, bipediatrist. Um, I see your point. I see your point with the quadruped and the biped, whether it changes. I have a feeling that an expert in that field would probably say that they are still a quadruped.
Yeah.
But like you said, the ape's feet look like hands. So
Yeah.
does that mean that they would be a four-handed animal? But I don't know if they have a term for that.
Bimanual,
Bimanual
perhaps,
or
or
quadmanual, possibly.
quadramanual. This is getting murkier and murkier, isn't it? And we've all seen those brave dogs out there who've lost a leg, often to cancer,
Sure.
and these are quadrupeds who have successfully made the conversion, the adaptation into tripedalism.
Yeah, the quadruped to triped. Not something that you see all the time. I just saw a video of a cat that was a biped
Mm,
because it only had the back two legs.
yeah,
Looked like a little Tyrannosaurus Rex.
that's kind of cute. Yeah.
It is very cute.
Yeah.
A little bit more on the subject of bipeds. This next word is bipedalism.
Hmm.
This is a noun from 1907. The condition of having 2 feet or of using only 2 feet for locomotion. So maybe a quadruped uses bipedalism sometimes.
Yeah, I think so. Our current president, for instance, is able to rear itself up on its hind legs, and the ism part.
Barely.
Yes, barely. And no offense meant to quadrupeds in general. It's interesting. On Facebook, I've been saying I honestly think that Trump is the worst human being on the face of the earth today. Maybe not in history. There are a couple of notable possible worse people, but on the face of the earth today, certainly in terms of overall impact, because of the way that he endangers that earth today that he's on, and personality-wise, I gotta think he's at the top too. I'm gonna put Putin, maybe Kim Jong Un, people like that, or they're on the medals platform for sure. But I think Trump is the worst, and then some people come back on Facebook and say, well, he's not a human being. I'm like, that's the sad thing. He is. We have to own this. We have to own
Mm,
this. He is one of us. That's what makes it so terrifying. And the ISM in that bipedalism, that does suggest kind of a political structure or a system of governance. And
sure.
so I will say that bipedalism could be the phenomenon by which a quadruped, such as the Donald, believes that it is in his political interest to give up his quadrupedal ways and rear up onto his hind legs in order to bloviate uh, criminally and untruthfully. Which leads me to the topic du jour, I guess, is Twitter and tweeting, and the fact that they're now fact checking his tweets. And then he put out a tweet which had lies in it, and so he is. Twitter now needs to fact check and correct his lying tweet about the fact that they're fact checking and correcting his lying tweets. And by this point, it's so freaking meta and postmodern that I'm lost. I'm lost.
Yeah, it's we could spend hours and hours talking about this, but you and I are on the same side, and it I think just boggles both of our minds. It hurts my brain actually. Um, we have one more bipedal word. That's bipedality, is a noun from 1847, and then the synonym is just bipedalism or bipedalism, the one that we just read. Yes, that's a whole fun topic that is happening right now as we are alive, and it's history. It's history.
It is history in the making, isn't it? Yeah, we're living in what's that curse they say? May you live in interesting times. Well, mission accomplished. Yeah,
Yes.
bipedality.
Yes.
We want to talk about bipedality, do we? Yeah.
Is there anything more to say?
Um, yeah. Some of your older listeners may know this song. I don't remember the lyrics to the first part. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. You know that song, Personality? That's it. It's the personality song. And then when I was a kid in the 70s, Wesson cooking oil used it for the chicken's got a certain Wessonality. And so now the trick is to come up with a limerick or a jingle that ends with bipedality.
I have a feeling that in a couple hours you may have already written it. But I do like where you're going with that one. And isn't it funny that the lyrics to the Wesson jingle were more ingrained in your brain than the actual song?
Because that's how I learned it. Just like I saw the Gilligan's Island, where Phil Silver's character did a musical version of Hamlet using Carmen, Bizet's Carmen, and that's my first exposure to Shakespeare or Bizet was on Gilligan's Island. And so it's your first exposure. The die is cast.
Yes, that's true. All right, let's see. Our next word is biphasic. Biphasic. It is an adjective from circa 1909, and the definition just says having two phases. What would be an example, do you think, of something that just has two phases?
Just two. That's interesting. So we often think of three phases, don't we?
It depends on what we're talking about.
Well, I'm thinking like the Sphinx's riddle to Oedipus. What creature? Oh yeah, this will lead us to an answer for biphasic too. The Sphinx's riddle to Oedipus. What creature walks on four legs in the morning? It's great how pedal this episode is. And listeners, I said pedal with a D. Pedal. I didn't say that with the N.
Thank you for the clarification.
Yeah. It's like when you say, I hope that security will advance to the point where we can get in the door with a retinal scan. It's very important to take your time with the word retinal and not just say retinal scan because it's often misunderstood. Same thing with that pedal. So Oedipus,
Yes.
riddle was what creature?
Did I lose you?
No, I'm here. Can you hear me?
And we're back. I don't know if you noticed, but Paul, I think, got cut off in the middle of a word. We had some technical difficulties. This is what happens when you deal with technology. But, especially now when we're doing these things remotely. So, Paul, we were talking about the word biphasic, and I think you were starting to say something about a riddle.
Yeah, that's right. And you're right. This is what happens when you deal with technology, which is why I prefer to work with Spencer and let him deal with technology. Biphasic. Yes. The riddle of the Sphinx. He asks Oedipus, and Oedipus will be killed, I guess eaten by the Sphinx if he gets it wrong. What creature walks on four legs in the morning, two in midday, and three in the evening? Do you know, Spencer?
I know that I have heard this. I know the answer is in my brain somewhere, but of course I can't think of it off the top of my head.
It is you and me. It is humankind who crawl in the morning of our lives, walk upright in the middle of our lives, and totter around on a cane at the end.
Yeah.
And so this is biphasic. Or not, is it biphasic?
Triphasic, okay. That would be triphasic.
This would be triphasic, yeah. And so biphasic would be someone who died before reaching that advanced age, or someone lucky enough not to need a cane as they got into their what do you call them? Golden years.
Golden years, yeah.
Yeah, right.
The winter of our lives.
So that would be right. So that'd be triphasic, but the riddle is about a triphasic life, and biphasic would be to only make it through the first two.
Yeah, and the first thing I thought of was the moon, but I think technically there's maybe 8 or 10 separate phases that the moon goes through. You know, sub phases of
Right.
major phases. So, but yeah, off the top of my head, I can't think of something that's specifically biphase. I mean, I think anything binary with a 0 and a 1 with just two options. A coin would be biphasic, I guess, if you want to go that
A
way.
life form that is alive or dead,
Sure, that would be
right?
biphasic.
Although the anti-choicers might argue that there's an earlier, but I would say that's not alive yet. Uh, and the proof of that.
That is a topic that
Are we going to go there? Probably not.
we no we you and I are in agreement, but we are not going to get into that
Right,
topic.
right, right. Where does it start? Does it start at conception? Does it start when fetus becomes viable? Does life begin at the moment of birth? I would say, in legal terms, it certainly does. And anyway, so biphasic, I'm just going to say living and dead. That is a biphasic phenomenon for life forms.
I agree with you.
Okay.
We are moving on to biphenyl, Biphenyl. This is a noun
You're just
from.
making that up now. You're just making stuff up.
Yep.
Yep.
I got to the point where there's no more book. I just have to make it all up. This is a noun from circa 1923. A white crystalline hydrocarbon, C6H5, C6H. Oh, it looks. Is that multiplied by? There's a little dot in between of it. C6H5 twice, and it is used especially as a heat transfer medium and in organic synthesis. Also, a derivative of biphenyl. Do you know what biphenyl is?
Yes, it means to put 2 servings of a garden herb into the salad. By
I had a feeling that's where you were going.
Yeah, sorry. I'm so predictable. What else are you going to do with fennel? Come on.
Right.
It also can refer to trying to pass 2 objects through a cone by funnel.
That okay. It's a stretch. We'll accept it. Next word is bipinate. Bipinate. One of those is perfectly fine. This is an adjective from 1760, and it just means twice pinnate. That word, by the way, is Pinnate, and bipinately is an adverb.
Bipinate is the characteristic of a person who purchases 2 evergreens at a time. They go out and buy pine eight, and then they devour it. Yeah, that's it. They purchase or buy 2 evergreens or pines and then devour or ate them. That's it.
If you have 2 Christmas trees and then you eat them on January 1st, you are bipinate.
Perfect. Yes.
Next, we have biplane. It is a noun from 1874. An aircraft with 2 main supporting surfaces, usually placed one above the other.
Right, and it's fascinating to me that the word precedes the actual successful invention by several decades. It would not be until, I think, circa 1912 before the Wright brothers would get that thing off the ground. There were failed attempts before then, so I suppose it makes sense you'd have a name for the things that didn't work. That makes sense, just like we have a name for Republican Party. Just because something doesn't function properly doesn't mean that you can't name it. Now, this takes me back to childhood because I was much more into monsters, prehistoric animals, and apes and such. But I did like to build World War I model biplanes. They were interesting to me, maybe because it was this notion of being exposed to the elements and having the wind in your face and having to wear the goggles and the scarf going behind you, like Snoopy and the Red Baron,
Yes.
So I did build biplane models, but I never built, World War II and B-52s, things like that. I danced to the B-52s, but it's a different thing. So biplane. I was being taken back to my youth, and so I got distracted from my obligations in this game.
No, you that was perfect. Yeah, biplanes just feel so much more connected to the world, and it's almost like the analog version of the future planes, which would be the digital version if you wanted to
Right.
structure it that way. Yeah, there's definitely something to be said about those old school biplanes, and like you said, being in the wind, you exposed that way. That's not something that air pilots have had to do for
Long time.
decades and decades.
That's right.
Yeah.
I wonder. There must be people out there like historical recreation type people, who do fly
Mhm.
biplanes. I'm sure there must be,
Sure.
and they get that thrill of a century ago. But yeah, your point is well taken. The biplane is to the jet as my flip phone is to your smartphone, I guess.
Pretty much.
Yeah,
Close.
yeah,
Close. Or maybe the rotary
right,
phone would be too.
right. No,
Yes.
right, the rotary.
So our next word is bipod. It is a noun from 1922, and it just means a two-legged
Mhm.
support.
Also refers to the couple in Invasion of the Body Snatchers that our
Hmm.
hero and heroine came across, who were in the process of being reformulated. Uh, they were a bipod when found, as I recall.
I will have to go watch that and remind myself. I'm trying to think of any actual two-legged supports. I mean, as long as something has one point to stand on. Um, Actually, I did have a tripod once that became a bipod because
Exactly.
my friend knocked it over,
Well,
and
yeah, but
it was
typically
old.
we have unipods, that
Monopods, yeah.
monopods, right? But the bipod, I'll give you an example because I just put one up today in the front yard. It's a sign with two metal legs coming out of the bottom to push into
Yes.
the earth, and it's a sign thanking our healthcare and other frontline workers. And it is bipedal, and it is itself a bipod. I, of course, was referencing the pod people of Invasion of the
Yes.
Body Snatchers. Yeah, in case. But what's cooler than the pod people is in, and of course, the original is the best version. But in the '70s version, there is a bispecial creature created when the beggar with a dog has to transform, and there's only one pod between them. And then this dog runs out later with the beggar's face and licks its chops. That's worth seeing, and you can just go to YouTube and put in Invasion of the Body
Yeah.
Snatchers 1978 Dogman or something like that, and it's worth seeing. It freaked me out. As a teenager, it freaked me out.
I will have to watch those. I can't remember if I've seen the older ones. I did see that recent remake, but I got to see the classics,
The
obviously.
'50s one is so fascinating because it can be read as being anti-McCarthyism or anti-communist. It's about enforced conformity and the loss of freedom, and so you could take it in either direction. That's a Don Siegel movie. Yeah, that's the
Mm.
genius of the film. I know what it means to me, but someone on the other side of the spectrum could take it in a very different way.
That's fascinating. I don't think there's a lot of movies that can do that. I don't think we mentioned this at the beginning, but based on the answer that you all just heard, Paul is also a film teacher, a film discusser, a
Scholar,
very
media, yeah,
knowledgeable
thank you.
scholar.
Media scholar
Yeah,
is the word that is on my business card. And yeah, I'm a media scholar. I'm working on a scholarly film book with my co-author David Lurison about the director Edgar G. Ulmer, best known for two films, The Black Cat from 1934, first movie to pair Boris Karloff and Bela Lugosi, and one of the seminal films noir called Detour, which is also one of the cheapest movies ever made. Ulmer, well, you can see why I would be drawn to his work. He was
sure.
consigned largely to Z grade movies and brilliance on a budget approach. So, as a kid, I would see Daughter of Dr. Jekyll, directed by Edgar Ulmer, and I'd see the flaws in it, like the fact that this movie that's supposed to be taking place around 1915. If you look carefully through the breakfast nook window, you can see 1950s cars driving past. But he didn't have a lot of film to shoot, and I don't think they were looking at dailies. So yeah, media scholarship fascinating to me, and I can't just watch something. Anything worth watching is worth watching at least twice. And I'm glad
Oh
to
yeah.
I'm glad to say though, and maybe you feel this way too. My first experience of a movie or good TV show, something like that I haven't seen before, is still largely an emotional and character driven and what's going to happen next. It's not scholarly. Scholarly, I mean, I might have a little bit in the first viewing, but mostly it's like, that was really good. The OA, I want to go back and watch that.
Yes.
Handmaid's Tale, I want to watch that episode again. Mrs. America, I want to watch that episode again. What else are we watching? We just started Man in the High Castle. And so you see it a second time, and that's when these things really start to present themselves. Handmaid's Tale, the Kubrickian symmetry that is in the compositions anytime you're in places like the commander's home or any of the governmental offices. There's this fascist symmetry, a la Kubrick compositions. Whereas if it's somewhere else that's outside the immediate, ever-present thumb of Gilead, you will have compositions that are much less rigid and much more asymmetrical. So, yeah, yeah. Movie reviewers who just talk about the plot and the acting, and maybe they'll say there's some beautiful location footage. That's just not maybe a review, but it's not a movie review. That's a plot and acting review.
Yeah, what you do goes up much more in depth, which I think is very fascinating. That's not necessarily always where my brain goes,
Mm-hmm.
but I do really appreciate it when that's pointed out to me. And I love that stuff. And then it makes me say, oh, well, maybe I should go watch it again
Yep.
with that other viewpoint in mind. So, you all are getting a little film lesson here from Paul.
But but think about it. A movie it's a visual art form. So we can't consign it to just a story or just a story
Right.
with acting in it. It is there aren't degrees of uniqueness, and it drives me crazy when people say very unique, because something either is one of a kind or it's not. But if I were to say that there's a most unique art form, it would be film, because think about it. It tells a story. It's a narrative form like literature. It is visual art like painting or print or still photography, from which it evolved, after all. It is a performance medium like a live play or opera, because there are people inhabiting characters and vice versa. Since 1927, and Al Jolson, the jazz singer, it is an aural, AURAL, auditory medium. You could throw in John Waters' Odorama if you want, but mainly those first four, there is nothing comparable. Yeah, an opera has a lot going on a stage, but it's not the same visual medium as one where people are controlling what's in your field of sight the whole time, and whether it pans, whether it tilts, whether it zooms, whether it tracks, whatever it does, this is unique. And so to do justice to a film, and it's offspring television, you really need to address it on every level, or you're turning a three-dimensional object into a two-dimensional object, which is what another thing that film does, of course.
Yeah, there's plenty of films that are two-dimensional and others that are three-dimensional in that sense. This is a topic that I could talk about for a long, long time, but I will say
I already have talked about it for a long, long time. Sorry about that.
no, that's fine, and I'm I'm about to transition,
Okay.
but one quick thing about that though, what you said is something that I have actually talked a lot about, at least to myself, if not to other people, which is the fact that film is the combination of all or almost all of the arts,
Yes.
which is that's just another way to put what you said. Every single art that you can think of can be utilized in filmmaking, and then
True.
you can go past that with food, craft services,
Mm-hmm.
the business side of things.
Right.
It's the building of sets. It combines basically every aspect of life into this one thing: filmmaking, the writing, the creating, the editing, the viewing, all of it. It is this very unique art form. And there's a lot of films that I would not call art,
Right.
but when they do utilize all of those together, that's other than smell and taste, that's when it does become this art form, and it is absolutely incredible.
And hand in hand with what you just said, it is far and away the most collaborative of all art forms.
Yeah.
I can write a novel on my own. You can paint a painting on your own, and so forth. And if you want to put on a play and it's not a one-person play, then you're going to have multiple performers. You have a stage director and stage manager and a director and so forth. But I mean, again, what is it? A symphony orchestra or an opera or something is going to take the silver, But there's such a gap between anything like that and a movie. It takes a village to make a movie. It literally does. You watch the end credits. There are thousands of names on a Hollywood feature at the end, and if it's a Lord of the Rings movie, there's tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of names. It takes a village to make a movie. Now, that's a plus and a minus. It's a plus because of all of those people, are very good at what they do and are really bringing it and are on the same page. You can have a masterpiece, arguably better than what one person working alone can do, no matter how skilled or talented she or he is in a given field. But there's also the weakest link theory. And so we've all seen movies where, well, the script was good, but Keanu Reeves was in it. Or, the cast was good, but the script sucked. Or one key thing that just suddenly turns what could have been a good or even great movie into something that didn't work. So that inherent hyper collaborative aspect of cinema is a blessing and a curse, depending.
That's true. We had that whole conversation just off of the word bipod. And we are almost here at the end. We've got the word bipolar.
Mm-hmm.
This is an adjective from 1810. There are a number of definitions, so hang tight.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, having or marked by two mutually repellent forces or diametrically opposed natures or views.
Mm-hmm.
2a, having or involving the use of two poles or polarities.
Mm-hmm.
2b, relating to, being, or using a transistor in which both electrons and holes are utilized as charge carriers. Number 3, relating to, associated with, or occurring in both polar regions, as in bipolar species of birds.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last definition is number 4, being characteristic of or affected with a bipolar disorder. Bipolarity is a noun. Bipolarization is also a noun. And bipolarize is a transitive verb.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll just say our last word is bipolar disorder, but if you would like to comment on bipolar before I get to that next one.
Yeah, we could do both at once.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think that makes sense.
And it's interesting that the last of the 4 definitions was the one that we invariably think of, I think, now when we hear the word bipolar. It is a shortened version of bipolar disorder. I may have a mild case of that. I know I've struggled with major depression. If I do have a minor case of bipolarity, it would be the kind, this is fairly common, where the lows are quite low and the highs are not particularly high. Not mania, but hypomania, which means almost manic. And that's when I get a lot of stuff done, frankly. You talk about all the projects in which I'm involved. Yeah, hypomania is not a bad thing for that, and I'd rather be hypomanic than full-on manic, that's for sure. I think it's important for people who struggle with mental illness to be upfront about it. Mike Wallace of 60 Minutes was excellent at that. And we have people like Halsey, the musician and singer, who and Demi Lovato, likewise, very upfront about their bipolar disorder in those 2 cases. It helps to beat down the stigma. I do a lot of work in mental health and in suicide prevention, and we're always asking people to go ahead and self-identify. It makes it just that much easier for someone out there to go and get help and not think that there's a problem with them. There's not. It's not a sign of weakness if you have one of these things any more than it's a sign of weakness if you have diabetes, or a heart condition. In fact, it's a sign of strength to have it and do something about it. So,
to look for help.
Yeah,
which obviously we both urge everybody to do if you're feeling like that.
I've been feeling really good for several years now, and this is being said by someone who was at the brink of suicide a number of times, so depression it's a liar. It's a big liar. It's like a Trump level liar. It tells you things that simply aren't true, and they're really convincing at the time. But I'm telling you, as someone who's not currently in it. Oh wow, that was cool. Did a spaceship just land? Spencer?
Sorry, no. Sharon actually
Hi,
opened
Sharon.
the door because she didn't. She's gone now.
Okay.
But we're going to finish this up. I actually didn't get to the actual definition of bipolar disorder, which is a noun from 1980. Any of several psychological disorders of mood characterized usually by alternating episodes of depression and mania, called also manic depression or manic depressive illness. You mentioned that you feel like you might have some of this. I actually feel like I have some of this. It might not come with as many low lows or high highs, but I definitely, on occasion, get depressed and feel depressed, and then on other days I feel totally fine. So,
Yeah.
it's just a thing that I think a lot more people deal with on some level of that spectrum than we are aware of.
Yeah, we all go through good moods and bad moods, and when they get when they are intensified, then you may be in the neighborhood of an actual mood disorder. There's not a
Right.
test for it. You can't. It's not like a blood test can tell you. And so I know that I struggle with episodic depression, whether it's part of a mild bipolar disorder or it's simply a depressive disorder. I don't know, but it seems to have some characteristics of bipolarity. By the way, I never got to give you my alternate definition, but bipolar transportation would mean, for instance, a sled being pulled by two big white bears.
Yes, I
That
was hoping for
Yeah,
something like
and
that.
if you want to catch more fish, it's better to fish in a bipolar way
Yes,
than unipolar.
agreed. So I thought there was something. Oh, is there a good place that you know of off the top of your head where if somebody feels like they need some help in that area that they can go to? I'll put a link in the show notes or a phone number or something.
Right. Yeah. And off the top of my head, I'm not remembering the suicide hotline that I used to quote to people at times like this, but I will tell you the one for RAINN. We were talking before about Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network, and they have several 24/7 hotlines, both phone and online, and Spanish language, and that's 800-656-HOPE.
That is a good number to know, and I will find the other suicide hotline number, and I think there's a website too that I will put in the show notes.
Great.
You never know what is going to come up in the dictionary. I love the fact that it gets us on these random conversations. I've had some really great ones with people, and unfortunately, they can't go on forever. The episode will have to end eventually, so the last thing that we're going to do is I'm going to have you pick a word of the episode that is your favorite or the one that stuck out at you the most in whatever way you choose. I will go ahead and read them just to give you a quick reminder. They are biotype, biowarfare, biowaste, bioweapon, biparental, bipartisan, bipartite, biped, bipedalism, bipedality, biphasic, biphenyl, bipinate, biplane, bipod, bipolar, and bipolar disorder.
It's a tough call because some of those I didn't know and are quirky, like the fennel one. But I have these existing affections for things like bipedalism and biplane. It would have to be one or the other of those. And I'm going to say biplane because the biplane can have a bipedal being in it.
Often does, actually.
Generally does if it's, in motion. Yeah.
Yes. So that is it. Biplane is the word of the episode. Thank you very much to Paul for being on. If you want to know more about him or want to learn film from him or read his book or hear books, I should say plural, or hear his music or see his shows, go ahead and check out the show notes. I will put as much in there as I can.
Beautiful.
So Paul, thank you very much for doing this. This was a lot of fun.
Spencer, it was my pleasure, and all those glowing things you said about me are coming right back at you, brother. Thank you.
I appreciate it. And to all of you listeners, thank you. Rate and review and share and all those things that people have to say at the end of their podcast episodes. And this has been Spencer dispensing information.
Spencer,
Goodbye.
can I just say bye, B-I? Can I do that? Bye.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's perfect.
Yeah.
Bye. Hello, word nerds. Welcome to this brand new episode of the podcast called The Dictionary. I think today is June 13th. I'm so confused because I was possibly going to record this episode with a guest. Unfortunately, they were not able to record, and I also didn't know if they even wanted to record this episode, given that the words are on here. So what I did was I recorded the next episode, tomorrow's, which is June 14th. So now I'm backtracking one, and then after this, I'm probably going to record June 15th. So I hope that I don't get super confused when I'm copying these files to my computer and editing them, although I probably will be. So hopefully when I'm hearing this, I will be able to fix the problem. The first word for this episode is bipropellant. Bipropellant. Noun from 1947. A rocket propellant consisting of separate fuel and oxidizer that come together only in a combustion chamber. You have to be a rocket scientist to understand that. No, not really, but it helps. Or at least helps to know how to make one of those, because I don't know how to make any rockets. Next, we have bipyramid. It's a pyramid with the prefix bi, noun from 1897. A crystal consisting of two identical pyramids, base to base. Bipyramidal. Bipyramidal is an adjective. Why do we change the emphasis on the syllables when we change the words around, when we add another syllable to the end? Why do we do that? I don't know. English is weird. Next word is biquadratic, adjective or noun from 1668. And we have the synonym. It's the word quartic. 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 Okay, that's a new word for me. And why? I don't understand. Well, maybe when we get to the cues, I'll understand a little bit better. I am fumbling with my headphones because I want to put the second one in, and of course, they're all tangled up. Okay. Well, I got to take that headphone out before I put in this headphone. Perfect. Now we have the word biracial. This is an adjective from 1922. It would have been good to have a biracial guest on this episode, but it did not work out that way. This one is of, relating to, or involving members of two races. Biracialism is a noun. This is definitely something that we have been seeing a lot more of in the last many decades, honestly. I mean, it's probably been ramping up every single decade. We have more and more peoples from different races, communities, cultures getting together, falling in love with each other, not having kids. I don't know where I was going with that other statement with the word not. Basically, realizing that you don't have to stick with your own group. There are other people out there that are great and awesome, and you will only benefit from learning about those other groups and cultures. And this is the perfect example. This is the when two people from that group, from different groups, come together and they fall in love and they have a child who could be called biracial. Maybe that is not a great name, depending on who you are. You may not like that term, that word. But for all intents and purposes, that's what it is. And I love seeing this. I love seeing that this is happening. Why am I talking so much about this? I just think that it's a really great thing that is occurring in our society, and I can't even tell you how often I hear people who who, let's say, they look African American, but then you find out that maybe they're part Caucasian too, or maybe their mother or father was Asian of some kind. There's a lot of people out there, and it only makes the world better, is what I'm trying to say. That is it for biracial. We are moving on to biradial, adjective from circa 1909, having both bilateral and radial symmetry. Next is biradical, noun from 1943, a free radical or compound with two unpaired electrons. Next we have, now I want to say biramus, but I think it's biramus or biramus. Biramus, adjective from 1877, having two branches. I'm guessing that could be related to a tree or a bush of some kind, but it could also be related to two branches of a family tree, or anything with branches could be biramus. This is from the bi prefix plus the Latin word ramus, ramus, which means branch. Now we have the word birch, birch. It is the first form. It is a noun from before the 12th century. One, any of a genus, lots of parentheses, of monoecious deciduous trees or shrubs having simple petioled leaves and typically a layered membranous outer bark that peels readily. Number 2, the hard, pale, close-grained wood of a birch. Number 3, a birch rod or bundle of twigs for flogging. Birch or birchen are adjectives. The part in parentheses in that first definition said the scientific name is Betula, Betula, of the family Betulaceae. I really hope I'm pronouncing those correctly. That is the birch family. This is from Old English Bjork, Beorc. It is akin to the Old High German Birka, Birka, which means birch, from the Old English Bjort, which means bright, and probably it says the Latin word fraxinus, which means ash tree, and there's more at the word bright. When my wife and I were I think we were in Iceland. I don't remember. We were in probably one of those little shops somewhere, and they had a little bottle of a liqueur that was, it said birch on it. It was like a birch flavored or a liqueur that came from a birch tree or something like that. And I honestly don't really remember what it tasted like, but I don't think it was too bad, actually. I would try it again. Now we have the second form of birch. It is a transitive verb from 1830, to beat with or as if with a birch. And a synonym is whip. I did not know that this is something that people did. Now we have the word bircher, capital Bircher. It is a noun from 1961, a member or adherent of the John Birch Society. John Birch is somebody's name. Birchism is a noun. Birchist or birchite are nouns or adjectives. So somebody who is part of the John Birch Society would probably call themselves a birchist or a birchite. I don't know anything about this society. Now we have, this is our last word for this episode. It's the word bird, B-I-R-D. It's the first form. The second form will be in the next episode, and this is going to take up a chunk of time. Let me tell you that. Wow, we are already over 8 minutes in. Okay, let's do it. This word, bird, is a noun from before the 12th century. 1 is archaic, the young of a feathered vertebrate. Number 2, any of a class, aves, or aves, A-V-E-S, of warm-blooded vertebrates distinguished by having the body more or less completely covered with feathers and the forelimbs modified as wings. Number 3, a game bird. Number 4, synonym is clay pigeon. 5A, synonym is fellow. 5B, a peculiar person. Now we have 5C. It is chiefly British, and it's the synonym girl, G-I-R-L. Yes, they sometimes call girls birds. Don't know how the girls feel about that. Number 6, synonym is shuttlecock. That's the thing that they use in badminton. Number 7 is chiefly British, and so we have 7A, a hissing or jeering sound expressive of disapproval. 7B, dismissal from employment. Number 8, a thin piece of meat rolled up with stuffing and cooked. Number 9, a man-made object, as an aircraft, rocket, or satellite, that resembles a bird, especially by flying or being aloft. Number 10, an obscene gesture of contempt made by pointing the middle finger upward while keeping the other fingers down. You could also say flipping the bird. That is, here we go. Usually used with the word the, called also just finger. Give you the finger, give you the bird. Those are things that people say. If you're a kid, don't be giving the bird until you're older maybe and know what you're actually doing. Number 11, we have the number 2 definition for the word birdie, which is in the next episode. Yes. Bird-like is an adjective. For the birds is a phrase. Synonyms for that one are worthless and ridiculous. And there is a really, really great Pixar short called For the Birds. It was one of the really early ones, maybe their second or third one that was released in theaters, I think. So it's at least their third one that was made, if not after that. It's just very short and very goofy and silly, and the animation, the design is great. The sounds are great. It's cute and silly, but I really enjoy that one. So after all of that, now I have to describe to you this picture. It's a picture of a bird. I don't know what kind of bird it is. It looks a little bit like a blue jay, but I definitely don't think it's a blue jay. There are no colors. It's got a pretty big head compared to its body. I don't know. Oh, actually, it tells me it's a kingfisher. Thanks, book. So this is for the number 2 definition of the word bird. It does say it's a kingfisher, and there are 14 words that are pointing to different parts of the body. So let us do this. Number 1 is the crest. This is basically the hair and the feathers that are on top of the head. Or actually, not exactly. It's pointing to the back of that part, but it's basically the top. But number 2 is the crown, which is basically pointing to the same spot as number 1, the crest, but on the front side. So it's basically like the forehead of the bird. Number 3 is the bill. You heard all about bill not that long ago. That's its beak, its bill. Number 4 is the throat. It's in the same place that the throat would be on a human and many, many other animals. It's right under the bill. Number 5 is the auricular region. Oh, so the prefix AUR has to do with hearing, and so that is pointing just behind the eyeball where the ear would be if they had. Well, they have ears, but that's not the same ears that we have. Now we have number 6 is the breast. So this is pointing right below the throat. It's like the upper chest, the neck, essentially. Number 7 is the scapulars. This is, well, I think the scapulas on a human are the shoulder blades. So this is pointing to basically right above the area where their wings are, kind of like the shoulders. Number 8 is the abdomen. I think most of you probably know what the abdomen is. This is the lower chest or the upper belly area. It's still pretty far forward. It's kind of right in the middle. Number 9 is the tarsus. This is the foot. Number 10 is the upper wing coverts. Upper wing coverts. This is the top of the wing, basically not the shoulder area, a little bit below that, kind of right in the middle of the widest part of the wing. Number 11 is called the primaries, and it's kind of hard to see on this, but it looks like it is the smallest feathers at the very end of the wing. Those are the primaries. Number 12 are the secondaries. So those look like those are the next level of feathers, closer to the shoulders. And I don't know why they have them in that order. They've got the upper wing coverts. That was number 10. Those would be the main portion of the wing. But then they go to the tip of the wing, and then they go back to the middle. So 10 is upper wing coverts, the top. Primaries, number 11, is the end of the wing, and then number 12, secondaries, is the middle of the wing. Those are those feathers. Number 13 is rectrix. That is the very end of the tail, not the feathers. Maybe that is the name of the feathers. I don't know. And then number 14 is the tail. What was I going to say about the bird and the thing at Tarsus? I don't remember. I had some comment or story about a bird, and I can't remember what it was. That's okay. That is okay, Spencer. No problem. We are going to pick biracial as the word of the episode because I know I talked a lot about it. I fumbled over my words a lot, but it's just representative of what I see as good in the world and where we are going in the world. Do you agree? I hope you do. I really want to remember what I was going to say, but I really can't remember. Was it about the foot? Was it about the wing? Oh, when I was a kid, I used to get those nature books. I can't remember. There was not National Geographic. It was one for kids, and there was one. It's just a memory that sticks out in me. the idea was, what would a human look like if they their chest muscles and arm muscle, basically their chest muscles, were strong enough to uh, make them be able to fly. We'd obviously have to have wings, but their chest muscles, birds' chest muscles, are so strong that that's what allows them to flap so fast. And so there was a drawing of a human with very large chest muscles in a prone position, like they were flying, and the sight of it was just so silly to me that I'll see if I can find a picture of it. I probably can't, but I'll see if I can find a picture and post it to Instagram. It was just a funny sight to see a human man with this very weird chest. But you got to have those muscles if you want to be able to fly. That's all I got for you today. Thank you very much for listening. Until next time, this is Spencer dispensing information. Goodbye. Hello, word nerds. Welcome to another episode of this podcast called The Dictionary. We are at, the third quarter of page 125. The first word is bird, B-I-R-D. It is the second form. The first form was at the end of the last episode, which, of course, you remember me doing some stuff which I haven't recorded yet, so I have no idea what I did. But I can tell you that it had to do with there was a picture of a bird and a bunch of descriptions, so who knows how that went? I don't know. This word bird, the second form, is an intransitive verb from 1918, to observe or identify wild birds in their habitats. Now we have the second form of bird bath. No, what? I was just thinking that was the second form of bird, but next is the word bird bath. It is one word, noun from 1895, a usually ornamental basin set up for birds to bathe in. My grandparents had a bird bath when I was a kid. They had it for a long time. They also had bird feeders and binoculars so you could see the birds. I think they even gave me a book of birds of North America. They were definitely fans of birds. So yeah, I just remember seeing the bird bath and sometimes watching the birds bathe in there. I think that's probably one of my earliest memories of a bird bath. Now we have bird brain. One word, noun from 1933. 1. A stupid person. Yeah, dictionary, just tell it like it is. Number 2, synonym is scatterbrain, and bird-brained is an adjective. Now we have bird cage. One word, noun from the 15th century. A cage for confining birds. Yeah, that's what cages are used for. If you've never seen the movie The Birdcage from, the 90s, I highly suggest that you go watch that movie. It's very good and very funny, and it's a remake of a French film. I think it was called La Cage aux Folles. I saw it, but I don't really remember it so well, so I might need to see it again. Next we have bird call. One word, noun from circa 1625. 1. A device for imitating the cry of a bird. Number 2, the note or cry of a bird. Also, a sound imitative of it. In old Warner Brothers cartoons, I feel like they would always have a duck call to get Daffy Duck. Elmer Fudd is the one who had the duck call. Now we have bird kernel. 2 words. No, this is not a popcorn kernel. I could use some popcorn though. No, this is the word kernel spelled the weird way. Colonel. Noun from circa 1946. It says it's slang, and we just have the number 1 definition for the word colonel. The etymology says this is from the eagle serving as insignia for this rank. So not only is the rank, is colonel a rank, but there's also bird colonel. I'm assuming they have an insignia that they wear, which is an eagle. I don't know anything about the military or ranks or anything. I always get confused about is general, sergeant, private, what order do those go in? I don't know. Now we have bird dog. 2 words with a hyphen. Nope, it's just a verb. From 1943, the intransitive definition says to watch closely. And then the transitive definition says to seek out. Synonyms are follow and detect. Now we have bird dog with no hyphen. This is a noun from circa 1854. 1. A gun dog trained to hunt or retrieve birds. A gun dog? I'm assuming that's a dog that people use for hunting, but I am not familiar with that term. Number 2A. 1. As a canvasser or talent scout who seeks out something for another. And then 2B. 1 who steals another's date. That's very tricky and not nice. Now we have bird dogging, 2 words with a hyphen, noun from circa 1941. 1. The stealing of another's date, as at a party. Also, yep, see, that happens again. It's tricky, not so nice. That's all the words I have to say about that one, except for number 2, the action of one that bird dogs. Now we have the word birder, birder, noun from the 15th century. 1. A catcher or hunter of birds, especially for market. I don't like that one. Number 2, a person who birds. I think another, and I don't know when this word came into being, but another use of this word birder, maybe this is the number 2 definition, but it's one who is a bird watcher. They I think now are called birders. Yeah. Now we have bird flu, 2 words, noun from 1995. The synonym is avian influenza. Specifically, and there's a lot of specifically information. Severe, often fatal influenza A caused by strains of a subtype H5N1 of the causative orthomyxovirus that have produced epidemics in domestic birds, especially in Asia, with sporadic associated human infections. I feel like I remember bird flu was a big thing in the early 2000s, maybe 2002, 2003, something like that. I think that's when we got, there was a lot of news about the bird flu. And of course, right now, we are dealing with something else that's even worse. Now we have birdhouse, 1 word, much nicer than bird cage, I think. Noun from 1858, an artificial nesting site for birds. Also, the synonym aviary. Yeah, usually, maybe not an aviary, but often these are ones where birds can come and go as they please. I love seeing bird houses that people have built, so they have a place, and they don't need to go make their nest somewhere else. It's built in for them, just for that purpose. Now we have the word birdie, birdie. It is the first form, noun from 1768. 1. A little bird. Number 2. A golf score of 1 stroke less than par on a hole, compared to the word eagle. Eagle, of course, would be 2 strokes less than par, and I think there's some debate on what the next one would be. I've heard albatross. I think I've heard double eagle maybe, although I could be totally making that one up. But yeah, what's 3 strokes under par if it's par 5? If it's par 4, you just get a hole in 1. Now we have the second form of birdie. It is a verb, a transitive verb from 1921, to score a birdie on. I birdied that hole. Now we have bird life, 1 word, noun from 1860, and we have an interesting synonym. It is avifauna, Avifauna. We must have read that, but I've read so many words I can't remember. But yeah, that sounds like that would just be the birds that live in a certain area, the fauna that happen to be birds. Now we have bird lime, like you put the lime in the coconut. This is 1 word, noun from the 15th century. 1. A sticky substance usually made from the bark of a holly that is smeared on twigs to snare small birds. Well, that's not so nice. The scientific name for this holly is, I think it's saying Ilex aquifolium. And then we have number 2, something that ensnares. Bird lime is something that ensnares. Bird lime can also be a transitive verb. Now we have bird louse, 2 words, noun from 1826, and we have the synonym biting louse. Like you bite with your teeth, biting louse. Now we have Birdman. No, this is not that movie with Michael Keaton, but this is 1 word, noun from 1697. 1. a person who deals with birds. Okay, maybe it's just should be bird person. Number 2, a person who flies, as in an aircraft. They call them a birdman? Okay, I guess so. That's an old school term, probably. Next, we have, I like this, bird of paradise. 3 words with hyphens. Noun from circa 1884. An ornamental plant of the family. Oh, what is this word? No, that's all part of the parentheses. We'll skip that for now. An ornamental plant native to southern Africa that has scapes terminating in a horizontal bract from which emerges an upright flower having 3 orange or yellow sepals and 3 irregular blue petals. Lots of word I didn't know. The scientific name is Strelitzia reginae or reginae of the family Strelitziaceae. That was not the bird of paradise I was expecting, but I will try and find a picture of this ornamental plant. And then we have our last word for this episode. It is also bird of paradise, but there are no hyphens. From 1595, it doesn't say that it is a noun or not, but I'm pretty sure it is a noun. Any of numerous brilliantly colored plumed oscine birds, chiefly of New Guinea and neighboring islands. Oscine is Oscine. I don't know what that word means. They are from the family Paradiseidae. No, close. Paradiseidae. Close enough. I have seen footage of birds of paradise, and they are absolutely incredible. I think they probably talked about them on Planet Earth, that series. There's so many different kinds of them, and their mating dances are amazing because their bodies, their plumage, and everything is built to have separate styles of mating dances. They're really quite something, very stunning. I'm kind of thinking that maybe I want to have that one be the word of the episode. Yeah, I'll pick bird of paradise to be the word of the episode. Obviously, I got to post some pictures of these birds. That is it. Thank you very much for joining me, listening. I now have to go on a call and maybe possibly record another guest who could possibly be in the episode that you heard yesterday, or could be in tomorrow's episode, or a different one altogether. Who knows? We haven't figured it out. Until next time, this has been Spencer dispensing information. Goodbye. Hello, all you lovely word nerds. Thank you for turning this podcast on. I hope that you are rating and reviewing and sharing and telling everybody about this. Please, if you want to talk to me, all the information should be in the show notes. I hope that all the podcast platforms have that information handy. There's Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, and I have an email account and a Google Voice number and a Patreon. So it should be pretty easy to find all that stuff. The first word is bird of passage. 3 words from 1678. 1, a migratory bird. Number 2, a person who leads a wandering or unsettled life. Next is bird of prey, 3 words from the 14th century. Why is this not giving me nouns? That's so weird. Maybe these multi-word phrases won't do that? That's weird. A carnivorous bird, as a hawk, falcon, or vulture, that feeds wholly or chiefly on meat taken by hunting or on carrion. Yep, that's a bird of prey. You see them flying around sometimes. Now we have bird pepper, 2 words, noun from 1696, and the synonym is chiltepin, Chiltepin. I don't know that word. Next is bird seed, 1 word, noun from 1840, a mixture of seeds, as of hemp, millet, and sunflowers, used for feeding caged and wild birds. My dad just recently brought a bird feeder over to my grandpa, who is stuck in his little assisted living room. Luckily, he's on the first floor, so my dad was able to put the bird feeder right outside his window so he can watch the birds feed. Although, who's going to put more seed in there? Maybe the people who work there can refill it up. I hope so. Next, we have bird's eye. There is a hyphen. It is the first form. Noun from 1597. 1, any of numerous plants with small, bright-colored flowers, especially a speedwell. What's a speedwell? Well, the scientific name for a speedwell is Veronica chamydris. Now we have 2A, an all-over pattern for textiles consisting of a small diamond with a center dot. That's called a bird's eye. 2B, a fabric woven with this pattern. Number 3, a small spot in wood surrounded with an ellipse of concentric fibers. A small spot in wood. Oh, would that be like the knot in the wood where a branch was? Okay, moving on to the second form of bird's eye. It is an adjective from 1665. 1, marked with spots resembling bird's eyes. Number 2, having or involving a bird's eye view, as in bird's eye perspective. Next is bird's eye maple. It's 2 words. The bird's eye still has the hyphen. Noun from 1793. Wood of the sugar maple having a wavy grain that causes markings resembling eyes. Now we have bird's eye view. It was just mentioned 2 words ago. It is a noun from 1762. 1, a view from a high angle as if seen by a bird in flight. Number 2, an overall or cursory look at something. I love bird's eye views. Drones are a thing now. There's a lot of people shooting footage with drones, which I think is absolutely amazing. Maybe they're being a little bit overused, but also I want to say they're not really being overused that much, because the footage that you can get from a drone is absolutely stunning. We're seeing views that we have never been able to see before. The word drone has a lot of meanings. I'm not going to get into all the other ones. But I love seeing bird's eye views. I love going to the top of a building. I've been lucky enough to be in some very, very tall buildings in my life, and the views from up there are absolutely incredible. And it's just, I love seeing from that other perspective, which we don't usually get to see. Now we have bird's foot trefoil. Bird's foot has a hyphen, and then it's the word trefoil, Trefoil. Noun from 1833, a yellow-flowered European herb of the legume family that has claw-shaped pods and is widely grown for forage and for erosion control. The scientific name for this European herb is Lotus corniculatus. That's a fun one. Now we have bird's foot violet. Violet is its own word. Noun from 1839. A common violet of the eastern U.S. with deeply cleft leaves and pale blue to purple flowers. The scientific name is Viola or Viola pedata. My great-grandma's name was Viola, but we just called her Nanny. Next is bird's nest fern. Bird's nest has a hyphen. Fern is its own word. Noun from 1858. A large epiphytic spleenwort. Ooh, this definition is starting off great. A large epiphytic spleenwort of tropical Asia and Polynesia that has lance-shaped leaves and is often grown as a houseplant. The scientific name for this, I have to say it again, epiphytic spleenwort, is Asplenium nidus. Next is bird's nest soup. This is 3 words. Noun from 1818. A soup made with the nest of a swiftlet that builds it using a glutinous secretion from its salivary glands. The scientific name, it says especially Colocalia fucifaga. Man, I love these scientific names. A soup made with the nest of a... Oh, so somebody's literally making a soup with the nest. That's gross and weird. Next is bird song. It's gross and weird to me. I know. It's all very personal. If that's something that you want to do, I guess you could do it, but I have issues with that personally and ethically. Moving on to the word bird song. 1 word, noun from 1896. The song of one or more birds. Next is bird watcher. 2 words with a hyphen. Noun from 1891. We have the number 2 definition for the word birder. If you listened to the last episode, which of course you should have, you would remember me talking about that a little bit. Bird watch is an intransitive verb. Next is birefringence. 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 This is a noun from 1898. The refraction of light in an anisotropic material, as calcite, in 2 slightly different directions to form 2 rays. Birefringent is an adjective. Let's see, this is from bi plus refringent, which means refracting, and probably from the Latin word refringere, which means to break up, and there is more at the word refract. Yeah, that's kind of interesting. Also, it's just a good word. Next is bireme, bireme, noun from 1662. A galley with 2 banks of oars, used especially by the ancient Greeks and Phoenicians. This is from bi plus remus. These are Latin. Remus means oar, O-A-R, and there's more at the word row. So when you see the boats, old school pictures or in movies and stuff, with all the people rowing, is that called a bireme? I don't know. 2 banks of oars? Yeah, I think so. Next we have biretta. B-I-R-E-T-T-A. Every time I see, well, it's not probably all that often, but seeing this word, biretta, reminds me of the actress named Retta, who is on Parks and Rec. Great show, great character. Go watch it. Noun from 1598. A square cap with 3 ridges on top, worn by clergymen, especially of the Roman Catholic Church. This is from Italian, beretta, from the Old Occitan or Occitan, beret, B-E-R-R-E-T, which means cap, from the Middle Latin biritum, from the Latin birus, which means cloak with a hood, perhaps of Celtic origin, akin to the Middle Irish word bear, B-E-R-R, which means short. Now we have the word birk, B-I-R-K, noun from the 14th century. It is chiefly Scottish, and the synonym is the word birch. Next is birkie, B-I-R-K-I-E, noun from 1724. Number 1 is Scottish. Number 2 is also Scottish. But number 1 says a lively, smart, assertive person. And then number 2 says the synonyms fellow and boy. Birkie. The origin of this word is unknown. And now we have the last word for this episode. It is birl, B-I-R-L. It is the first form. It is I think it's just an intransitive verb from circa 1585. It is chiefly Scottish, and we just have the synonym carouse, or carouse? I think it's carouse. This is from Old English, berelian, probably akin to the Old English beran, which means to carry, and there's more at the word bear, B-E-A-R. Lots of good ones here. I think I probably say that a lot, but I'm going to pick bird's eye view as the word of the episode. Maybe if you're playing at home, you can try and predict, based on what I say, you can try and predict which word I will pick as the word of the episode, because sometimes it's probably really, really obvious to you, and maybe not as obvious to me. But that is what I am picking. Thank you for listening. I don't know what to say. We're still watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine. That's a fun show. I started watching Midnight Gospel, not for kids. Very strange but wonderfully weird animated show from Pendleton Ward, who made Adventure Time, and Duncan Trussell, who's a comedian with a very fascinating brain. And that's the stuff. Oh, I watched Army of Darkness recently. I had never seen it before. I had heard that it's great and fun, and it's the third movie after Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2, and I enjoyed a lot of it, but it is arguably not really a great movie. I really hate to say that because so much work went into it, but it is, I mean, it's okay. It wasn't for me. Let me just say that. And maybe it was the day that I was watching it, who knows, but I feel like if I had watched it as a teenager, I probably would have enjoyed it a lot more. It's way also expectations. I think I had higher expectations, and that is unfortunate because I think it deserves better than that. But it was way more crazy than I was expecting it to be, and that was the problem. So if you're going to watch it for the first time, just go in with low expectations and you'll enjoy it. But there was some really great stuff, like stop motion animation and some fun skeleton puppets. That's all I got for you today. This has been Spencer dispensing information. Goodbye. Hello, word nerds. Welcome to today's episode of the podcast called The Dictionary. We are at the top of page 126. You hopefully are all doing well. It's very weird. At the time of recording, it seems like cities and states are starting to loosen their restrictions a bit. Now that we've been sheltering in place for so long, they have some, theoretically, a little bit more room in the hospitals. So, it's not like this virus is going away, but, things have maybe slowed down enough where they are starting to open things up. So I drove past a restaurant that, starting today in my town, restaurants that have outdoor seating. People can sit outside and eat, and it's very strange, and I feel like people were still sitting too close together, and of course they didn't have masks on because they were eating. I don't know if I would feel comfortable doing that right now. But that is the state of the world. So, probably, so this is the end of May that I'm recording this. So I think probably in lots of other places, end of May, beginning of June, things are starting to evolve. And, today's episode is in the middle of June. So things could be totally different by now. By now. Anyway. The first word is birl, B-I-R-L. It is the second form verb from 1724. Transitive is first. Number 1, synonym is spin. Whee! Number 2, to cause, a floating log, to rotate by treading. So it just says to cause, to rotate by treading. And that could be talking about a floating log. And of course, in my mind, I think of cartoon characters running on a log in a lake or a river or something. And, people do that in real life, though. Aren't there like lumberjack competitions where they do that? Now we have the intransitive definition. It says to progress by whirling. Burler is a noun. Now we have Berman. I think that's how it's pronounced. Capital B-I-R-M-A-N. Noun from 1973. A long-haired domestic cat of a breed originating in Burma, which in parentheses it says Myanmar, and resembling the Siamese in eye color and coat pattern, but much stockier in build, with paws symmetrically marked with white. It says it's a variation of Burman, B-U-R-M-A-N. I just saw a picture today of a Sphinx cat, so a completely hairless cat with its paws outstretched towards the camera, and the fingers, would they be called fingers? The digits spread apart. And because it has no fur, no hair, you could see that they actually have webbed fingers. There's a webbing in between their fingers. I wonder what the reason for that is. But it was just such a weird view of a hairless cat. It was super fascinating. Moving on to biro, capital B-I-R-O. This is a trademark, and it is used for a ballpoint pen. I feel like if I were a bit older, I would know this biro. I'm sure I've heard of it, seen it. It sort of reminds me a little bit. There's something in my brain that sparks, but I would not have known that a biro was a ballpoint pen. Now we have burr. Couple ways to pronounce it. B-I-R-R, noun from circa 1978, and it just says, hey, go see the money table, because it's some sort of money. But the etymology says it is Amharic, A-M-H-A-R-I-C, Burr, B-E-R-R, except the E is upside down, and it literally means silver in Amharic. So we are going to move on to birse, B-I-R-S-E, noun from, where is it? Before the 12th century. Number 1 is chiefly Scottish, so is number 2. Number 1 says a bristle or tuft of bristles. Number 2, synonym is anger, burst. This is from Middle English burst, from Old English burst, B-Y-R-S-T, and there's more at the word bristle. Next, and a bunch of these words are going to be, let's see, wow, I think all, plus a few in the next episode, we'll start with the word birth, B-I-R-T-H. This is the first form, noun from the 13th century, 1a, the emergence of a new individual from the body of its parent. What a wonderfully concise and specific definition. The emergence of a new individual from the body of its parent. 1b, the act or process of bringing forth young from the womb. Number 2, a state resulting from being born, especially at a particular time or place, as in a southerner by birth. 3a, synonyms are lineage and extraction. Two words that seem different to me. Now we have 3b, high or noble birth. Number 4, a, is archaic, one that is born. 4b, synonyms are beginning and start. Let's see, etymology, nah. Okay, now we have the second form of birth. It is a verb from 1855, starting with transitive. Number 1 is chiefly a dialect, to bring forth. 2a, to give rise to. Synonym is originate. 2b, to give birth to. Now we have the intransitive definition. There's just one. To bring forth or be brought forth as a child or young, like you have been birthed. Now we have the third form of birth. It is an adjective from 1975, and we have the number 3 definition for the word biological, as in his birth mother. Next is birth canal, 2 words, noun from 1927. I feel like maybe I should have had a guest on who has given birth, but because I can't really speak so good to that. Anyway, the birth canal. The channel formed by the cervix, vagina, and vulva through which the fetus passes during birth. It is the canal at which someone is birthed. Next is birth certificate, noun from 1860, a copy of an official record of a person's date and place of birth and parentage. Next is birth control, noun from 1914. 1. Control of the number of children born, especially by preventing or lessening the frequency of conception. Synonym is contraception. Number 2. Contraceptive devices or preparations. Obviously, there's a whole bunch of options for those. But now we have birth control pill. That is one of the birth control contraceptive devices or preparations. Noun from 1966. Any, this is a long definition. Any of various preparations that usually contain both a progestin as norethindrone, I think I said that right, norethindrone, and an estrogen as estradiol, are taken orally, especially on a daily basis, and act as contraceptives, typically preventing ovulation by suppressing secretion of, here's a fun word, gonadotropins as luteinizing hormone. As luteinizing hormone is an example of a gonadotropin. And then it says called also oral contraceptive. That is another name for birth control pill. Next is birthday. One word. noun from the 14th century. I said it so weirdly because there's a dot to designate the first syllable and the second syllable, and so it almost looked like two words, but it's just your birthday. Noun from the 14th century. I think I said that already. 1A, the day of a person's birth. 1B, a day of origin. Number 2, an anniversary of a birth, as in her 21st birthday. Is today your birthday? It would be great if this had landed on my birthday, but it's not. No, it's not. So if today is your birthday, happy birthday, you June 16th person. Next is, birthday suit. 2 words, noun from 1753. Unclothed skin. Synonym is nakedness. You're born in your birthday suit. That is what you are wearing the day that you are born, which is your birthday, born from the birth canal. You have been birthed. Next is birth defect. Noun from 1971. A physical or biochemical defect that is present at birth and may be inherited or environmentally induced. I don't know if I have any birth defects other than probably my brain. Next is birthing room. 2 words, noun from 1978. A comfortably furnished hospital room. I don't know if they should use comfortably because depending on where somebody is giving birth, it might not be a very comfortable room. But it says a comfortably furnished hospital room where both labor and delivery take place and in which the baby usually remains during the hospital stay. Next is birthmark. This is a noun from 1580. An unusual mark or blemish on the skin at birth. Synonym is nevus, Nevus. I wonder does everybody have a birthmark? Or not. I don't know. Some people have large birthmarks. Some people maybe have no birthmarks. I know somebody who had a child and they were born with many, many birthmarks around over their body. And unfortunately, the skin, I think, is very fragile. And so they had to have a lot of surgeries to get rid of as many of the birthmarks as they could. And I think they did a really good job. And I remember when this happened, they used the word nevus, or there are other words related to nevus. There was probably some scientific terminology for the condition. But that's where I learned nevus. So I was like, I actually know that word. And then, sometimes there are people who have birthmarks that they're kind of embarrassed about. I grew up with a kid who had a large birthmark over his eye, and I think that he got teased a lot. I was sort of friends with him. Obviously, I don't think I teased him ever, but I felt really bad for him that he had to go through that for something that, of course, was no fault of his own. I mean, that's usually what kids are teasing other kids about, things that the kid couldn't have controlled anyway. So yeah, that was unfortunate, and that happens a lot. So if you're a kid listening to this, don't tease a kid for their birthmark, or really anything for that matter. Next is birth pang, P-A-N-G, 2 words, noun from 1721. 1. Wow, I'm about to say 1 3 times in a row. One of the regularly recurrent pains that are characteristic of childbirth, usually used in plural. Number 2 is also plural. Disorder and distress incident, especially to a major social change. Now we have birthplace, 1 word, noun from 1607, place of birth or origin. Next is birth rate, 1 word, noun from 1859, the ratio between births and individuals as a specified population and time. And our last word for this episode is birthright, 1 word, noun from 1530, a right, privilege, or possession to which a person is entitled by birth. What is going to be the word of the episode? Well, I think I'm going to pick birth control because this is a thing that a lot of people don't do, and it has caused there to be way too many people than this earth can handle. And, unfortunately, there are a lot of schools and people who don't teach about this, and so it has caused a lot of problems. That is my thought about this. My opinion, I mean, I guess it's not completely an opinion. It's partially fact as well. So, let's teach about birth control because, people are going to do it anyway. So you might as well not have more babies than there should be. You think? Okay. And on that note, this has been Spencer dispensing information. Goodbye. Hello, word nerds. Welcome to another episode of The Dictionary. The first word is birth root, birthroot, noun from 1822, any of several trilliums with astringent roots used in folk medicine. Birth root. Now we have birthstone, one word, noun from 1907, a gemstone associated symbolically with the month of one's birth. I could never remember which birthstone goes with which month. I'm September. I should probably at least know that one, but I surely don't. Next is birthwort. One word, wort, is W-O-R-T, noun from 1551. Any of several herbs or woody vines with aromatic roots used in folk medicine to aid childbirth. The genus name is Aristolochia of the family. Just add a C-E-A-E to that one. Aristolochiaceae, which is the birthwort family. Next is bis, B-I-S, adverb. We don't usually see adverbs. From 1609. Number one, synonym is again. And it says used in music as a direction to repeat. Yep, that's that. And then number two, the synonym is twice. Bis, twice, again. Same stuff. This is from Old Latin divis, D-V-I-S. Don't know how to pronounce that one. It is akin to the Old High German zwiro, which means twice, from the Latin word duo, which means two, and there's more at the word two. Next is bisayan. That is probably not how it is pronounced. Capital B, I-S-A-Y-A-N. It is a variation of visayan with a V instead of a B. You gotta wait a long, long time to hear that one. Now we have biscotto. B-I-S-C-O-T-T-O. And then it looks like the plural is biscotti, which is the word that I think most people are probably familiar with. This is a noun from 1946. A crisp cookie or biscuit of Italian origin that is flavored usually with anise and filberts or almonds, usually used in plural. Yep, like I said, we're used to seeing biscotti, not biscotto. But if you are having a single biscotto, you have to say biscotto. You can't say biscotti. This is Italian. It means biscuit or cookie. From biscotto, which literally means bread baked twice. Ah, see, there's that bis. The bis prefix means two or twice or again. So that's something cool etymologically that we just learned. Now we have biscuit. So I wonder if this means something that happened twice as well. There's a fair amount of definitions for this one. Biscuit, noun from the 14th century. Number 1A, any of various hard or crisp, dry baked goods. As 1A1, in British, we have the number 4 definition for the word cracker. 1A2, also British, the synonym is cookie. So yeah, they often call cookies biscuits. That we don't call, we biscuit usually means something else here in America, but I think most people now are aware that if you hear biscuit, it could mean a cookie. I could go for a cookie. I could also go for some biscuits and gravy. 1B, a small quick bread made from dough that has been rolled out and cut or dropped from a spoon. Number 2, earthenware or porcelain after the first firing and before glazing. 3A, a light grayish yellowish brown. 3B, a grayish yellow. That looks like, when I think of grayish yellow, I think of a kind of a gross color. Call it biscuit? Yeah, I guess biscuits kind of look like a grayish yellow. Biscuity is an adjective. That biscuit is so biscuity. This is from Middle English, biscuit, from Anglo-French, biscuit, which is from biscuit, which means twice cooked bread. Twice cooked bread, there's that double thing there. Now we have bisect. It is a verb from circa 1645. We are starting with transitive. To divide into two usually equal parts. And then the intransitive definition just has the synonyms cross and intersect. Bisection is a noun, bisectional is an adjective, and bisectionally is an adverb. To divide into two. So okay, we're just going to move on. The next word is bisector, noun from 1864. One that bisects, especially a straight line that bisects an angle or a line segment. The next word is bisexual. This is, I don't want to say it's a controversial subject, but the idea of gender and sexuality is clearly something that has evolved a lot recently, and so it's just a really, really big topic. We are going to just go ahead and read what the book has to say, and then we'll see what happens. This is an adjective from 1824. 1A, possessing characters of both sexes. Synonym is hermaphroditic. I don't know if that's really an appropriate definition anymore, but maybe in the science world it is. I don't know. Like, not related to what we usually think of this word is. 1B, of relating to or characterized by a tendency to direct sexual desire toward both sexes. Number 2, of relating to or involving both sexes. Bisexual is a noun, bisexuality is also a noun, and bisexually is an adverb. Obviously the 1B definition is the one that, when we hear this word, we think of that most often. But yes, if a biologist or something is talking about, an animal that is dealing with, something that's both sexes, male and female, then they'll use that word bisexual. I think in terms of sexual desire, I think the more proper term these days would be pansexual, because the idea of sexes and genders is clearly a lot more fluid. There's a lot more accepted genders, and so this word, I don't think is as appropriate now these days as it used to be, but people still use it, and I think it's fine. And I think they're sort of interchangeable, but bisexual and pansexual. I'm actually really curious if pansexual is in this book. Moving on to bishop, noun from before the 12th century. One having spiritual or ecclesiastical supervision, as an Anglican, Eastern Orthodox, or Roman Catholic clergyman ranking above a priest, having authority to ordain and confirm, and typically governing a diocese. 1B, any of various Protestant clerical officials who superintend other clergy. 1C, a Mormon high priest presiding over a ward or over all other bishops and over the Aaronic priesthood. These are a mouthful. Number 2, either of two pieces of each color in a set of chessmen having the power to move diagonally across any number of adjoining unoccupied squares. Number 3, mulled port wine flavored with oranges and cloves. That's my favorite one of those definitions. I didn't know there was a mulled port wine called Bishop. Now I got to find some of that. This is from Middle English, bishop with an extra S. From the Old English, I'm just going to pronounce it like it sounds, bisciop, but I'm sure that's not how it's said. From the Latin episcopus, from Greek episkopos, which literally means overseer, from the epi prefix plus skeptisthai, which means to look. And there is more at the word spy. Ooh, cool. Spy and bishop are related. Now we have bishopric. This is a noun from before the 12th century. Number 1, synonym is diocese. Number 2, the office of bishop. Number 3, the administrative body of a Mormon ward consisting of a bishop and 2 high priests as counselors. Next is Bishop's Bible. The B at the beginning of both of those words is capitalized, and then there is an apostrophe after the S in bishops. So it's plural and possessive. Bishops' Bible. Noun from 1835. An officially commissioned English translation of the Bible published in 1568. Now we have the word bismuth. Bismuth. We are at the bottom of the first column of page 126. It's going to take us into the top of this next column. Bismuth is a noun from 1668. A heavy, brittle, grayish-white, chiefly trivalent metallic element that is chemically like arsenic and antimony, and that is used in alloys and pharmaceuticals. And then it says to see the element table. Bismuthic? Bismuthic? Is that how you say that word? Bismuthic. Or bismuthic is an adjective. If I'm remembering correctly, I think I've seen pictures of this, and it's this sort of like shiny, almost like a geode kind of looking thing. It looks cool. And now we have the last word for this episode. It is bismuth subsalicylate. Subsalicylate. Yeah, I think I said that right. That is spelled subsalicylate. Noun from 1941. A drug, C7H5BiO4, taken orally to relieve diarrhea, nausea, and indigestion. Well, I'm going to have to pick bisexual as the word of the episode because I try to bring more attention to things that I think are important, and I feel like my goal in life is to try and just get rid of hatred and bring more love to everything, and get rid of bigotry as much as possible. And I'm recording this on May 31st. This is 3 days into these massive protests and riots that have been going on all over the country, and it hurts my heart. It's very sad to see that things like this even had to happen in the first place, but I also completely understand why it is happening, and this is the reality, and things need to change. That's just what it is. Things need to change. I want to get to the root of these problems in any way I can, and if my little voice on this little podcast is what I can do, then I'll keep on doing that, but I don't know if it's enough. I don't think it's enough. In fact, I know it's not enough. And on that note, thank you for listening. Please go rate and review and tell people about this tiny little podcast where somebody is talking about the words in the dictionary and sometimes states his personal views. This has been Spencer dispensing information. Goodbye.